tonight to see if he was barefoot. Is that still the case? Is he barefoot? Because I know on Facebook somebody posted a picture of these could be his shoes, or is that so he is presumed to be barefoot at this point?
What I can say is that his mom says all of his shoes are accounted for at the house. I'm not going to say that he's barefoot.
All right.
Allegedly!
Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. This is Lady Freedom here coming at you with another raw narrative. Here's a brief disclaimer for tonight's show. Let's watch.
That's ignorant! Allegedly, that's ignorant! Ignorant!
Judgment, Alston.
Boy, you read my thoughts. You've got the shinning.
You mean shining?
Shh! You wanna get sued?
Judgment, Alston.
You just use that shin of yours to call me and I'll come a running. But don't be reading my mind between 4 and 5. That's Willie's time.
Hey, yo, boss. I love it when he does that.
Let's watch.
Don't get me back to good bullshit.
Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. This is Lady Freedom here coming at you with another raw narrative. I just wanted to say hi to everybody. Thank you all so much for coming in. I saw Hey Jude, good to see you, Hey Jude. Alicia Hot Wheels, I saw Town Chat Cafe. Wait what? That is awesome. That is awesome. And then also saw Show Poodles, Kathy Bartholomew. I saw Couponing, Lolo, Linda Hall. And thank you so much for hitting the like button, you guys. I'm so glad to be here with you. Hey, Detroit Rock City. Good to see you. Good to see you. So tonight I'm in a very good mood. Some good things happening, some bad things happening. You know, that's life and that's the way things go. And VW Holla Girl, great to see you. Thank you for being here. So, you know, that's how life is, right? Life's just that way. But I do have some great news for you all, and I'm going to wait for Jana. Hopefully I'm not on too late. Hey, Lori, good to see you. Hopefully I'm not on too late, but I got an amazing text message earlier this evening from Jana. And if you guys are new to the channel, or if you weren't around, or maybe haven't seen the coverage with Jana, her sister Crystal, and let me just switch over really quick. I meant to switch this over, so I apologize. But why don't I just put this overlay? Because this is really good. So this is Crystal over in the picture, right? And she is wearing pink. And then her sister Jana is wearing like a purplish shirt, right? And Crystal is no longer with us because, in my opinion, her husband, Tony Jones, took her life. And it's exactly what it says here, right? There was a botched investigation from the start, in my opinion. Crystal McCrory Jones. And I hate saying the Jones part, but she is known by that in many places. We've pretty much put down the Jones and kept Crystal McCrory. Deputy Chuck Harris was the one that did the welfare call. He was friends with her husband, Tony Jones. And then Alan Irby was friends with Tony Jones and Deputy Chuck Harris. Mind you, this welfare check was done over a cell phone. And Tony says that he was worried about his wife and her condition, but he sent over someone on a cell phone and not someone who could have gotten a hold of EMS or, dispatched it out quickly. And then we have Sheriff Scott Matthews, right? Sheriff Scott Matthews, poor scrutiny, in my opinion. He took Alan Irby's inadequate investigation and inquiry, or the lack thereof, and he just basically didn't do his part. And he also lied several times. And we've listened to recorded meetings and phone calls with Sheriff Scott Matthews. So we know him well around here. Most of us, most of the Dragons know Sheriff Scott Matthews. So, and I love this quote. It says, "Now I know you are always, now I know why you always told me to be strong, because you knew that one day I would need the strength to bear your loss," right? So these sisters, Jana and Crystal, were incredibly close. And I think that energy transcends our earthly abilities, if you will. And I believe that they still are. Hey, Meg. And so Jana has relentlessly fought for her sister. The research that she has done, that she has presented to many of us on YouTube, creators and different news outlets, she has done everything to keep her sister's name out there. And it's just a very, very beautiful thing, their relationship. She was an aunt, she was a mother. Crystal was not just a sister to Jana, but from all accounts, she was the best sister, from what I could see. And so she's very missed. But the power of that determination that we see in Jana, that we see in Seth, that we see in Brandy Neal, fighting relentlessly for their children to find answers, to bring justice, to find Monkey. Monkey is still missing. He's still out there. I did a short video on Harmony Montgomery. We're going to talk about Harmony later. A lot of this will tie in to CPS, and her case most certainly did. And there's an update that I wanted to share. But at the end of the day, when you're relentless and you continue on and people come together for a common goal and a cause, it's amazing what can be achieved. And I think it's important to remember that we can do that. And I think that's why the news that I got today was so big, because I always see Crystal's sister fighting for her. Facebook, there's Linktree, there's all kinds of things that I'm involved with, on the social media front. And it's so important when we're trying to spread awareness and get people's attention. So with the letter writing campaign, I think that Kash Patel would be a really great person to get a hold of. Now, if you're more of someone who just likes to kind of click a button and get a hold of someone, this is how you can DM Kash Patel on Facebook, right? Or excuse me, Facebook, on X, rather, formerly known as Twitter, right? So you can get a hold of him there. And if you want to be a part of the letter writing campaign, but you find it easier to do it this way, I think that would be a good idea, because, it's getting a direct message to him. So that's fantastic. And if you're not familiar with who this guy is, right? Director Kash Patel, he was appointed by Mr. Trump, our president, and he heads up the FBI, right? He's the director. And I think he's a New Yorker, pretty sure. Not really familiar with his background, but nevertheless, that's who he is. But I think this would be a more powerful statement, right? Letter writing would be if we were to send this to Mr. Patel's office, right? So here he is, and this is how you pronounce his whole name, or spell it out. And this is a template, right? This is somebody that just recently wrote him. I found this on Facebook, right? And they have their name up on top, and this is kind of their letterhead, right? And how they're writing out the letter, just kind of a sample. But I think it's important, and I think if we all do it at the same time, it's really, really important to do that. So I would like to, I wanted to do it this week, but I think it's good to start as soon as possible, but I would really like to see it through all of next week. So I want to really, hit home this letter writing campaign. It's important. It's a good cause. It doesn't cost a lot of money. You can get yourself a forever stamp book, right? We can put a flyer in there, is another wonderful idea that I've heard from people. And I think it just would be a fantastic way of trying to get Mr. Patel's attention. As I said in our previous live, you can still write to Craddock's office, but I think it's, after I kind of was doing a little bit more research and talking with some people, I think that it would probably behoove us to get a hold of Mr. Patel, and I want to start there. I think that's a good starting point. And, let me know what you all think in the chat. But here's Mr. Patel. He is the director of the Federal Bureau of Investigations, right? And again, here is his contact information when writing him a letter. And we're going to I'll play the letter writing video again, because it's funny, make you guys laugh. But it's a gangster way of handling it, right? Everybody wants to keep it real and be tough. And what's really, really tough is doing the right thing and picking up a piece of paper and a pencil or a pen, and or going in and typing a letter out formally to the people that are supposed to be overseeing our nation, overseeing the Federal Bureau, overseeing the different points of government. But I think it's really important to do it in kind of a way that all at once. Because I've heard people tell me, Lady Freedom, I've been writing letters for a really long time. And I'm like, man, that's awesome. Thank you so much for doing that, right? Like, my bright idea, here I am, like, let's all write a letter, right? And it's months later. But these people have been doing that because they know it's a smart thing to do, and they know that it'll get people to listen. So, but if we do it all together, that's going to show that everybody cares, and it's going to have the same kind of effect that we saw in the movie Shawshank, right? Redemption, where Andy writes the letters, but it took him 6 years, right? Because he was the only one writing letters. So if we all get together and do it, it'll be really something fun. And then I'll work on doing something maybe like, I don't know how I could even police who would be able to be in a drawing, but, maybe we could figure something out, because I think it would just be a fun thing and something to incentivize or make it more fun. Hey, Lil Red, good to see you. Good to see you, Lil Red. Hey, Kai Kai, good to see you. Megan Nell says Kyron Horman's mom is still not giving up. Natalie Holloway's mother never gave up. Yeah, absolutely. And they finally got her person, the person who was just brutal to Natalie, and her mother never gave up. Meg, you're so right. Yeah, absolutely. And then Kyron's mom. I mean, just amazing examples of the determination. And it's the same with our friend Jana, because she is relentless. Like, she will go up against government, right, in the correct fashions, right? Let's start a petition. So you all know that we shared the petition here, and you can even go into my community wall. If you have not signed the petition, go ahead and check that out. It's at change.org, right? And it's pertaining to the proper way, the respectful way of handling the sending of someone's remains. So, a whole ass person, how we would handle that, right? Respectfully. Because unfortunately, in our friend Crystal's case, her remains were not treated so respectfully. And neither was the investigation, let's be honest. I mean, that's Crystal, and she deserved for her remains to be respectfully sent to her son, as any of us would wish. But that did not happen. Unfortunately, her remains were sent in the most disrespectful way imaginable, in my opinion. Especially when somebody has to question whether her remains were in fact all of her remains, or if they were not. Yeah, that was her husband, Tony, right? What a guy. What a guy. And then here's a picture of that douchebag. There you go. Here we go. Now, this guy, he couldn't hack it, right, as a police officer, Tony Jones. He's the one that's all the way over to your right, if you're looking at the screen here. And, yeah, he's a real douche. Chuck Harris, of course, is his buddy who called in the welfare check. He's standing right next to, or behind him. But he is someone who decided to send her remains to one of her sons in that condition. And so Crystal's sister, Jana, said, oh, hell no. That's not going to happen for anybody else ever again, because it was horrifying for her nephew and for herself to have to not only endure their mother, their sister, having to endure her being cremated against their wishes, because her family never wanted Crystal's remains to be, well, first of all, they wanted her remains to be properly investigated, because they never believed that she did this to herself. They never believed that she would take her own life, because Crystal had so much that she was looking forward to. And even in her text and her email correspondence, it shows that she was super excited about becoming a grandmother, which she has, even though I guess it's more of in a heavenly way. She didn't get to experience that here. And her grandbaby doesn't get to experience having her wonderful smile, the person that she was. Hold on, let me get Tony off of the screen, because he doesn't really deserve to be up there for very long, besides just to show who the fuck. There we go. Okay. But either way, he's the one that did that. So this is the power of being very determined, very persistent, and having so much love in your heart for your family member that you are going to make sure that no one else has to deal with the pain of not only having your ashes, that they never wanted your ashes. They never wanted you to be ashes, right? Because they wanted you to be investigated properly. But he goes off and cremates his wife because he had something to do with her death, in my opinion, whether he pulled the trigger or whether he had his friend Chuck do it, in my opinion, allegedly. Crystal's no longer with us, and then he decides to take her remains and treat them the way that he did. And so we are here with the power of love and determination and just courage to keep on standing up for the person that you love. And again, we see that with Seth and Brandy and all of these wonderful people, Kyron Horman's mother. We see that with Natalie Holloway's mother. These people deserve recognition for the good that they're doing in this world. And so that whatever they've gone through, no one else will ever have to go through that again. And that's a beautiful thing. That's what we're here on this earth for, is to make it easier, right, on other humans that precede us. But either way, this is what she has won. And it's a huge accomplishment. So no one else will ever have to go through this again. Never, ever will they have to go through this again. And anybody that signed the petition, I just want to thank you, because it's because of what you did that helped Crystal's case be pushed to the forefront, right? It's what you did that motivated Jana, I'm sure. And now I might be coming out of, going out of bounds a little bit here, but I'm just going to go out there and say this, that, every time she saw that number, going up of people signing the petition and people who cared about other people the way that everyone that signed that petition did, it probably gave her a boost of energy, because she said, yes, I'm doing the right thing, right? I'm getting a positive result. And so anybody that went over there and did that, man, it's not just a click of a button. You know what I mean? Rogue. Hey, Rogue. Rogue's been here for a member for 3 months. Thank you, Rogue. Oh my goodness. I love you. You're awesome, Rogue. But and this is what we can do, guys. These are the things that we can do. It's just absolutely amazing to me. And I was not expecting this news. I really wasn't. I was so happy to hear this. It's just absolutely fantastic, right? And I wanted to point something out here too. So this is a 2-page document. So this is the first half, right? I just made it a little bit because it's a small writing, right? The font's pretty small. But then I go over here, right? There's 2 pages, right? And I know you guys might be thinking, what are you talking about, Lady Freedom? But, in a 2-page document, you always expect to see, page 1 and page 2. But that was another big discrepancy in Crystal's case, because, they left some pages out, right? And just recently I did an announcement where they found that Crystal couldn't have possibly pulled the trigger when she's doused with tons of Benadryl, and she's got so much in her system that it would be physically impossible for her to have done that. But that was strategically left out, or maybe more so conveniently left out, if we give the benefit of the doubt, which I'm not really going to, because as I said in previous episodes, when we've spoken about Crystal's case and the way that it was handled, there were discrepancies in damn near every document in every person's hands that you would expect that your family member would be in good hands in or with, but that wasn't the case here. We have documents missing. Thank God for AI, right? And thank God that Jana's so smart, because she went hunting, through with AI. Just Amazing. Hey, Carla. Hey, YouTuber. Good to see everyone coming in. Hey, SI officer. Hello. Good to see you. I hope you're having a good night at work. So yeah, it's a great day for justice. It's a great day for justice. In Jana's pursuit for her sister to be treated with respect, in other people who, it's an awful thing. But there's even cases where, maybe it wasn't an awful situation. We're all gonna pass, right? We're all gonna pass away. But just to know that anyone's remains are going to be safely transported, right, and adequately, respectfully transported, and it's all because of really a sister demanding respect for her sister. She said, look, you will respect her, and you're going to know that you didn't, right? And there's a lot of things that Jana could have chosen to do with her time. She could have she could have huffed and puffed. She could have got upset. She could have, started bullying people around and being a real asshole. And, she could have been like, I hate the police and I hate everybody. And, all the prosecutors are jerks. And, every single DA out there is a real asshole. But she didn't do that. As a matter of fact, I've seen posts that she has written about encounters with police officers after her sister's passing, and the police officer asking her about her sister Crystal, and then her telling him the story because she rides around with her sister's emblem, her respect to her sister, right? And hey, Eric with an H, good to see you. But it's just a really amazing thing that it didn't make her grow bitter, right? It made her heart bigger. And she said, I'm going to help other people, right? And I'm going to right the wrongs. And man, I wish there were more people like her out there in this world, because I don't know. And I mean, like, she just keeps on raising the bar higher and higher. I can't reach her. She's amazing. So what I'm getting at, guys, to reach out to this guy, right? Let's just reach out to this guy, see what we can get going. Let's be loud. Let's be proud, right? Let's go out there and let's let him know. Hey, look, Sebastian, look over here, Kash Patel, director of the FBI. Maybe there's nothing you can do about this, but look, we're begging you guys to take over. And we know that the jurisdiction issue is there, but please, pretty please, will you do something? Will you help us? You were appointed to be, in charge of the FBI. So can you please help us? What can we do? And we can ask him questions, and you guys need to send them in to me if you want me to read them. Or if you want me to feature your letter. But either way, we're going to do We the People, and you guys can say it in the chat. It's so important. It's so important. Thank you, SI officer says done. Thank you. Okay, guys, so I'm going to show you the letter writing campaign, right? Just to make you guys laugh. Hey, Rob Beanie, good to see you. Welcome in. Oh, and I was thinking the other day, I think I was clipping for shorts or something like that, and I was naming off the guys on our channel, and I wanted to shout out to our Tony Fire, and I think he slipped my mind because I haven't been on like really, really late, and he's from South Africa, but I don't want to forget him as one of our Dragon Tribe guys. So shout out to Tony Fire. Sorry about forgetting you, Tony. It's so good to see all of you guys coming in. So I'm going to go ahead and play this next one. Oh, thank you, Lori. yeah, please hit the like, guys. It really helps with the algorithm. And, you know, I always appreciate you guys so much. And thank you for being patient with me this week. I have a lot going on, and we'll talk about it at some point. But I think at this juncture, it's really smart to just kind of be mature and, you know, let the courts handle it for right now. And so I think that's the best idea. And, you know, and then we can, you know, discuss it. I don't want to take a terrible amount of time on any of it, guys, because who matters is our Crystal, right? Jana out there. We need to cheer her on. Guys, this is where I say that because people are really upset with me for saying that Seth is my hero, but he is my hero, right? And then I have Jana that I look up to like you wouldn't believe. And I think she's younger than me, or maybe we're about the same age, but like I look up to her so much, if you guys couldn't tell. I just think that she is such a good person that took pain and tragedy and she turned it around into something good. And something important and something valuable that is going to change the world. Literally, she changed the world with her diligence and her determination, the petitions, all of that. She's done that. And, you know, and we've helped here and tons of people have helped. And that's what we need to do, is to come together. So, you know, and that's how we see results. That's how results come. But let me go ahead and play this one. I'm silly, guys, but here we go.
It has been 453 days since now 16-year-old Sebastian Rogers vanished from his home in Hendersonville.
Sebastian's biological father, Seth Rogers, was deeply frustrated when he spoke with me. He fears the case is going cold.
My son's been missing for 15 months, and they don't care.
Sebastian disappeared in February last year. He was just 15 years old.
Okay, Dragon Tribe, Lady Freedom here, coming at you with another raw narrative. I need your help. A call to action, a letter writing campaign. Seth needs our help. There's a right way to do things and a wrong way to do things. Let's watch.
Come on, he's ignoring you. Yes, he is.
Officer, roll down your window!
I need your help, please. I want to get his attention.
Really?
Oh, I'm driving. Not even using my hands. Oh, beer.
Idiot.
I'm totally topless.
I don't care.
What the fuck are you doing?
Are you crazy?
I'm sorry. I need your help.
What's all this?
You tell me, fuck stick, they're all addressed to you.
In response to your repeated inquiries, the state has allocated the enclosed funds for your library project. This is $200. We now consider the matter closed. Please stop sending us letters. And with all this, it only took 6 years. From now on, I'll write 2 letters a week instead of 1.
I believe you're crazy enough. Now I'm gonna go pinch a loaf.
press conference on the case was more than a year ago.
I would love to see them actually conducting more searches. I'd like to have some communication on the tips that have come in just with me, so that I know that when a tip comes in, I'm not following up on what job they're supposed to do.
Seth says only one detective is actively assigned to the case and that he is often left to chase down the same leads, also sent to law enforcement.
We need more than just one set of eyes on this case, but it all falls on my shoulders to ask people to help find my son. My son means something to me. These people should be doing their job.
In his push for progress, Seth says he's reached out to lawmakers and is even drafting federal legislation aimed at reforming how child protection agencies and the Amber Alert system handle missing children's cases.
It's a federal oversight law on places like CPS, DCS, the Amber Alert, getting it redone and taking it out of people's hands that don't care about the children.
According to the FBI, an estimated 460,000 children are reported missing in the U.S. every year. Seth says every one of those cases deserves attention, including Sebastian's.
A parent demands answers. We demand answers because our heart is missing. He is my world. I need him. I need him back with me.
So, and making change, right? Making change. Hey, Sasha. Good to see you, Sasha. Thanks, Rogue. Thank you so much. Yeah, and making change, you know. Keep it classy in the chat. Order in the chat, please. Classy in the chat. Yeah. You know, it's just amazing the things that we all can do. Even though we think that we really can't do a whole lot, right? Even when things are really, really bad, we really don't think that we can do a whole lot. We can do tons together. Tons and tons together. Dang commercials. Are there a lot of commercials, SI officer? I'm sorry. I try to turn them down. I think I don't know really exactly. YouTuber, bring Sebastian home. Bring Sebastian home. Thank you for the green hearts. Absolutely. And that's what we need to be doing. Somebody knows something, right? Somebody knows something in this case. You know, and I like to think that they know more. It's still frustrating, to say the least. Crickets. Yeah. Crickets. You know. And it's just absolutely sad. But I think if we start with Mr. Patel and we do, you know, a campaign, we can start it right away, but then we'll end off on a certain note. And then I think we should choose another person that we can get together and send letters to that person. And it's just something that's important that we can all do. Hey, Social Butterfly, re-listen to the dispatch talking about a truck with a key in it, but locked. Wonder if it is what triggered CP. Well, he was worried about the truck, right? It's like, don't talk about my truck. And, but yet, you know, he doesn't even know what kind of truck he drives, which is weird. I thought that was weird as hell, right? Any man knows what kind of truck he drives, you know? Even if he was to get a rental, he'd be like, this is the truck I have, you know? I mean, come on. To believe you don't know what kind of truck you got? Hey, Borna Honey, good to see you. Good evening, good evening. The weekend is almost here. The weekend is upon us. And Carla says, LE claims they are doing a lot behind the scenes, and I totally don't believe a word they say. They can state that and not be doing a damn thing one day and then say, sorry, we couldn't solve it. Yeah. And at that point, I think, Carla, you know, they need to hand it over. At what point do they say we've done everything possible that we can do in Sebastian's case? And I think that maybe we need to bring in a higher chain of command, right? And I don't mean to be disrespectful in that regard, right? I'm as pissed as everybody else. Don't get me wrong. But I think it's a valid question. At what point do we decide, and I'll change, I'm going to change our background back over to Sebastian, because we're going to, this is kind of going to segue into some other things that we're going to talk about tonight. There we go. But at what point do they say enough is enough, and we're going to go ahead and hand it over, right? It's like handing it over to someone who has more expertise at the very least, and it is on a federal level. Hey, Ann Reynolds, good to see you. Good to see you. Good to see you. 459 days. Where is Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers? Chris and Katie Proudfoot. Where is Sebastian? You know? Where can we find him? Where did someone put him? Where is he? I mean, I'm glad you're here, Ann Reynolds. Good to see you. Good to see you. Good to see you. Robini says, Lori, with everything going on with other countries, you still took time to address that. So maybe, maybe with Trump. I'm sorry. Did I miss? I probably missed some comments up here, guys. See, I hate that because I get behind in chat, but I don't want to miss any good ones. I'm guessing you guys are talking Trump, possibly Trump. And look, he signed, I don't know how many executive orders, and I understand that it really doesn't fall on the president's lap or anything like that. But I do think that the director of the FBI should be notified in this situation. And the way that I'm going to kind of write my letter would be something to the effect of, and by the way, if you already wrote a letter to Sheriff Craddock, I think that's fantastic. And I'm still going to do that myself. But I think with Mr. Patel, it might be a little bit different. I might explain how long Sebastian's been missing for and the reason why I would like him to take over. It's just something that needs to happen moving forward, in my opinion, if they are at a dead end, which maybe they don't feel as if they are at a dead end, but it would be nice for them to come out and let us know that either way. It's not that they owe us anything. They don't have to do that, but it would be nice if they did. And I think it would put a lot of rumors to rest, and it might even make people feel a little bit better about the entire situation. But it's very hard to feel good about a situation where Sebastian's still missing. Seth is upset, rightfully so. Believe it was Deception Detective that was talking about how even though Seth may have come off as being very aggressive and, forward, and what did he say? He said kind of bullying a little bit, but honestly, that's kind of how a parent who is showing urgency would act, right? Because they're angry that their child has not been found yet. They're so frustrated, they just want to scream, right? And so if somebody asks them a question like, how does this make you feel? You're probably going to get an aggressive answer for the most part when it comes to where is my son and why haven't they come up with answers. At this juncture, I'm sure Seth has certain, and of course this is all alleged in my opinion, but I'm sure Seth has a few working theories in his mind that he mulls over night after night, day after day, right? And so he believes, it's very apparent by what he's been saying, and that's mostly what I base my analysis off of, is what other people are saying, and then I kind of think, say what I think they're saying or how I interpret it either way. But it just seems like he is so frustrated right now, and he wants answers, and he wants his son. He's always wanted that, right? From the very beginning, even the first couple of weeks, it was probably just a nightmare because he probably still couldn't believe that his son was missing and they hadn't found him yet. But at this juncture, he's got theories, right? He has his probably certain things that he believes may have happened. If anyone is entitled to an opinion, which we all are, in my opinion, right? We are all entitled to our opinions. We're all allowed to speak our minds, right? That is part of freedom of speech. But when it comes to Seth, he has also kind of made it a point to not really scream from the rooftops what he thinks, but he's always made it a point to scream from the rooftops that his son is missing and that he needs to be found, right? He's not screaming from the rooftops always like, oh, I think this person did it and these people are guilty, blah, blah, blah. But we see his frustration coming out because at this juncture, he believes that more should be being done. And I believe that he knows maybe more than most people, right? He's one of the parents. And I'm not talking about Chris and Katie. I'm just talking about Seth right now. So I'm not comparing them or anything like that. What I'm saying about Seth is that he is always working towards finding Sebastian and never really worried about his theories getting out there and, you know, this is what I believe happened. But just the mere fact that he is feeling the way that he is. And I meant to download the whole entire interview, but I didn't. And I think it was, shout out to Bullhorn Betty. She went ahead and kind of enhanced the audio. So it's a little bit better quality, right? We can hear it because it's an outside interview and the cameraman's a little bit further back, right? It's at a different kind of an angle. This particular footage, and it's a little windy outside, but we'll have to go over that tomorrow night. But I think it's important to hear the entire interview. But in this one, you can tell that Seth was saying things like, I don't believe that they care about the children. That's very strong, right? Because if he's feeling that way, there has to be a reason why. And I think that one of the biggest reasons why is because his son is still missing. And he knows, right, that there's a lot of circumstantial evidence, I'm sure, and then there's evidence that I'm sure he has that we don't know about, and the same thing with the police, right? Maybe something was shared, but there's got to be something there where he's not feeling as if they're doing what they should be doing, or their job, and I feel the same way. Sebastian's case is not the only case that we have seen this in, right? So I did a short video today. There was a settlement in the Harmony Montgomery case. The little beautiful girl who was given to her dad, who had a teardrop tattoo on his face, and the state of New Hampshire thought, that would be a good idea. Sure, give her to the dad, teardrop tattoo and all. And Harmony ended up being brutally beaten and by her father, and her stepmother just sat there and allowed it. I wouldn't be on this planet if somebody did that to a kid around in front of me. But her stepmother was still collecting benefits on Harmony, so that's the kind of person she is. And then she rolled on her husband, Adam, and he's in trouble and she's not. She's walking around. But we see this in Sebastian's case where there was a system failure, a major system failure. And no one can deny that on either side of the aisle, I believe. I believe that's undeniable that CPS dropped the ball. If there was in fact that many reports, if there was even more than 2 reports, okay, we'll just be honest right there. Because, some people say that it's questionable. I don't believe that, but SI officer said he gets offended on anything that is focused on that is not, in my opinion, actually part of something that needs to be looked at. Yeah, well, and I think he gets offended by a lot of things too when it is something, absolutely. I mean, something that has something to do with the investigation or somebody getting too close. They always get very, very angry and territorial, and it's, and don't forget there's a lot of local people that are helping with this. My weekends suck sometimes too, Rogue. That's why I try to come on, you know what I mean? I try to do Sundays. This Sunday I won't be able to be on, of course, because I have an early Monday morning, but yes, we'll be back to regularly scheduled programming next week though. Because I feel like I kind of had a weekend that sucked because I didn't get to come up here and talk with you guys. So, yeah, trying to deter people. Yeah, with intimidation. It ain't going to work, Buttercup. Yeah, and that's the thing. We're not intimidated by it because we care about Sebastian, and that's the only person that we're worried about, right? We just want to make sure that his story is out there. Not Chris and his, nasty way of just talking and making his own narrative known. In my opinion, he disparages Sebastian when he speaks, even when he's not, trying to, he does. Social Butterfly says, I was also listening to how KP camera thing in her SUV said, or she said she heard Sebastian in the back seat. How can that be when he left the Texas Roadhouse in the front seat? Oh, okay. I didn't see that, Social Butterfly. That's interesting. So she said she heard Sebastian in the back seat. Yeah, he was riding shotgun on, in the video when they arrived at the Texas Roadhouse. So why wouldn't he be? And then when they left, he was front seat as well. That's interesting. Of course, and I mean, that's not surprising in this case. Town Chat Cafe says, I heard someone was ducking behind a truck when one of the search dogs were out that day. Did y'all hear about that? And then how do you... Yeah, so that was part of the SF video, right? That the law enforcement had 2 days in, and yeah, no, that one isn't anything besides somebody walking past and their dog, walking their dogs, Shopoodle says doing things behind the scene is the equivalent of screaming from the rooftop in private, in my opinion. Yeah, well, it is. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and if people are in fact doing as much as they can behind the scenes, that's fantastic. But I understand the frustration because at this juncture as well, I believe that we should be further along in the investigation than we are. It feels like there is just some sort of bottleneck that we need to get past, right? So we need to find out where it is and, do our best there to kind of make it to where we can figure out what actually happened here. But you would just think that it would be they would have more knowledge, they would be a little further along, right? There would be specific searches going on in specific areas. For example, if they thought that Sebastian was somewhere out and say they're working under the theory that Sebastian walked off, which we know that didn't happen, but they would maybe do another search of the woods, because obviously the woods are really thick, it's rough terrain, so a lot of things can come into play when we think about searching a wooded area in a densely wooded area like they have around the house. So if we saw them going back doing that, we can understand that they're still operating under that assumption. But if they're operating under the assumption that someone took Sebastian, say like at the 3 a.m. flashlight video, then we would see them working in that direction. But we don't see them doing much of anything, and that's what's frustrating. It's frustrating. Oh, sorry, Shell Poodles. I popped you back up there again. Sasha says, oh, no, we haven't searched anywhere where we need to. Well, and, it's hard to know where to search. I'm not going to lie. But like I said, based on maybe, hey, hindsight, good to see you. Oh, nice to see you. And, but if you're operating off of one assumption, or if you think like, if you're operating under the assumption, for example, that Sebastian was kidnapped, right? Because we know about the lights video, right? Somebody could have taken him, right? He could have been handed off by somebody, right? We know there was a light source that went back to the house. And when I'm theorizing, I always have to remember those small little details, right? Because that is a huge part of it. The fact that that's the activity that was in the neighborhood, right? Because again, setting the stage, Sebastian Rogers in his house, presumably, made it home from the Texas Roadhouse, tucked into bed, right? Or put his own self into bed after saying goodnight to his mom and his puppies, as his mother said. Okay, Sebastian was in his house with his mother, and when she went to go wake him up, he wasn't there. We have the lights video, the only activity in the neighborhood, so to speak, other than that other activity, right? That was around 12:15 when people were walking their dogs, and then there was somebody else walking in the neighborhood. That's all normal. We have a mysterious car in the neighborhood, right? And then we always have to remember that one light source went back to where it came from, right? Same direction as Sebastian's house, same area. It was caught on a neighbor's camera. It was so close. Always have to remember that when we're thinking about a theory, because if that piece didn't exist, if somebody didn't go back to the house, then it wouldn't make me think that someone that was in the house had something to do with it. But since the light source went back to the house, that leads me to believe that someone in the house had something to do with it, because only one person was back in the house in the morning and Sebastian was gone. So if only one light source left that evening from that direction, I would think, okay, then Sebastian left. He left, right? He had a million reasons to leave. He was abused. He was degraded by Chris. He was hated by Chris. He didn't feel like he was loved by his own mother because of the diabolical ways of Stepfoot. In my opinion, he didn't have a good time of it, guys. He did not have a good time of it. And I don't care what anybody says, no one is going to make me believe different. Not one single person will ever make me believe different. Carla says, it needs to change that a parent can ask for help. Local LE cannot turn them down. Let's get this changed for all missing children. Amen, Carla. I think that's a wonderful idea. And I think that we can do that. I know that we can do that, right? We see how change works. We see how when somebody's determined and they're not going to give up and they keep on being the squeaky wheel, right? The squeaky wheel gets the grease or the oil or whatever, right? Because our voices will be heard. And I think we have to do that. And I can see that Seth is working towards these changes as well. And I think it's so important. Another thing that I would love to see, and maybe I need to look into it myself, but a way that we can pass a law to where cases are looked at like a crime until they're proven not to be. Because I feel like if they would have done that, actually, I don't feel it. I think it and I know it. They would have done differently in Sebastian's case to begin with, we would not be here today. But they went in with their, unconscious bias, in my opinion, goggles, and they just tunnel vision. They weren't thinking about other options. They were operating under the assumption that Sebastian walked off. And those are Sheriff Craddock's exact words, right? Well, he was chief deputy when he said it. Robini, that's so cute with the dabs. I love that. It's so cute. Hey, little Miss Sharon, good to see you. Sasha says, well, if the Bower Sox guy foots or Guy Proudfoot's hands are clean. Let us come with Jules' dog. Then I 100. Yes. Well, and you know, they didn't want to do that, Sasha. They didn't want to let Jules in there because they must have saw her videos where she was, you know, busting out the rugs, right? With that little cube that she was using. I don't even know. It wasn't even like a cube. It was like a little, oh gosh. Well, when she comes in, we'll have to ask her what it is, but it was like a little scent. It had like a scent on it, right? And she would hide it and they would find it, and it was fast. I mean, really fast. So, so good to see you, little Miss Sharon. And Kathy says, in my opinion, laws need to change, maybe change to where local LE has to hand the case off of a missing child over to the FBI if not solved within a year. Kathy, I think that's a great idea, you know, or maybe even to fit a certain criteria, because of course we don't want to overload the FBI, but we do want to trust local law enforcement and at the state level. In this case would be like the TBI, right? So local law enforcement, Sumner County, state level TBI. We want to entrust our state to do right by us, but it's not always that simple. And then on a federal level, there has to be the oversight, right? It's really important to have that. And because there's got to be checks and balances. That's why it works here in America, right? And that's the way it works. That's why it works, is because you have to have that checks and balance, right, in play. And so, you know, there should never be any all-powerful being. Everybody needs to have, you know, someone to hold them accountable. Very important. And thank you so much for your comment. Now, I do want to switch gears over to Harmony, and I'm going to play this for you all. I made this video today for little Harmony, and it's just a short. But here we go.
Well, Marissa, it's important to know that Harmony's biological mother, Crystal Sorey, filed this lawsuit after a judge helped declare the little girl legally dead.
$2,250,000. That is how much money the state of New Hampshire is paying to resolve the wrongful death lawsuit filed by Harmony Montgomery's biological mother, Crystal Sorey.
In my humble opinion, I think $2.2 million is how much the state thinks Harmony's life is worth. She is still missing.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think this was expected.
Legal expert Patricia LaFrance says it isn't surprising the state wanted to avoid going to trial.
It would really just open wide maybe what goes on behind the scenes of DCYF, and they probably did not want to risk that.
What they didn't want to risk was accountability. If it went to a trial, then there would be full accountability because they would have to testify under oath. They didn't want to risk being exposed, or more importantly, having to tell the truth, just like these two numbnuts.
In September, Sorey accused the state's Division of Children, Youth, and Families of ignoring reports of abuse made months before authorities say her 5-year-old daughter was killed. Last May, Harmony's father, Adam, was convicted and is now serving decades in prison for her murder. The little girl's remains have never been found.
People are still going to walk away with, obviously New Hampshire did something wrong or they wouldn't have paid this out.
News 9 has learned that after attorney costs are taken care of, 50% of what's left of the payout will go to Crystal Sorey, and the other half will go to a third-party trust for all 4 of Harmony's siblings.
I was a little surprised. The amount itself isn't large. It's not huge.
The state says by settling, it isn't admitting to any wrongdoing. Sorey's suit was one of 3 cases settled by the state Friday. The state says, quote, the state agreed to these settlements to avoid prolonged litigation and support closure for the families. We recognize their profound loss and hope this brings some measure of peace.
I have a question for you, John Formella. What are you going to do about the other children who are stuck in the system or who are falling through the cracks of the system? Your $2.2 million means nothing if you're not going to change or make any reform in the system. Your answer should have been something like, we will never let little Harmony's life be taken in vain for the mistakes of our system. But instead, your solution is to throw money at it and to make everyone shut up about it. Yep, I gotcha. No accountability ever. 1 of 3 cases, shameful.
And we did try speaking directly with Crystal Sorey today, but her attorneys tell us that they won't be speaking or commenting any further about this. We're live in Manchester tonight. Imani Fleming, WNUR News 9.
Obviously, the state of New Hampshire did something much more than just wrong in this case. Harmony's still missing. Her little life was cut short, and the bit that she did get to live was horrific. Living with monsters. When I look at her beautiful little face, I can't help but think of the life she could have lived or the person she could have become if it wasn't for these monsters or the state of New Hampshire who served her up on a silver platter to them.
Okay, guys. So yeah, 2.2 mil, calling it good. New Hampshire. Fantastic, right? It's like, what the heck? Carla says, Kathy Bartholomew, I think a year is too long. The more time that passes, the less likely to find them. I would say 3 months, or if a parent wants help on week 1, they can say no, or they could say so. Yeah, you know, the only issue that I can see with that would maybe be, you know, they would probably have to have a whole other wing brought onto the FBI, but maybe that's what we need. You know, but I do think, well, we'll just look at Sebastian's case. In the beginning, we did see where Sebastian, where we did see where Sebastian had many resources like the Secret Service. They did bring in the CART team at the very beginning. They brought in the FBI. They brought in the Secret Service. They brought in really all hands on deck kind of a thing, right? We can just kind of say that because they did all of it. They just did all of it. Hey, Babs. Good to see you, Babs. Let me go up to these. And sorry if I'm missing anybody coming in. Welcome to everybody coming in. I got really behind in the chat. I apologize. Babs, it's a cluster F. I'm so tired of this BS. Does no good. Well said, Babs. And I'm sorry, YouTuber. It looks like I probably missed your comment there. Sasha says Craddock has indicated there's no evidence Sebastian left the home. Also, so what does he say? Yeah, what does that say? I think it says a lot. I think it says a lot, Sasha. I think it's something that we should pay attention to, especially if it's something that he's telling us. It is difficult because of the trash video, right? It's difficult. I don't know, you know, if he's coming out and telling us things to kind of deter us from what we're thinking, because he did that so well with the trash truck video, in my opinion. So absolutely sickening and sad, SI officer. Well said. It is absolutely. And you know, going back to Harmony really quick, guys, Harmony's life was taken in vain, in my opinion. But what about the other 2 cases, right? What about the other 2 cases? Because that was one of 3 that were settled out of New Hampshire. And the reason why they said that they wanted to settle was because they didn't want to prolong the process for the family. And of course, I think that it's much, much more than that. If there were 3 open cases and they settled, say, even 2.2 million apiece, or who knows if the other cases warranted something more substantial. It's a scary thought, and we don't know. We just don't know. Good night, Lil Redo. Have a good night. Rogue says a law that would be upheld in the United States of America that deems a missing child case, that deems a missing child case criminal case immediately, like Canada has. Yeah, I believe they should, Rogue, or at least treat it as a criminal investigation from the jump start, right from the beginning. And I don't understand, other than unconscious bias coming into play, why they did that in Sebastian Rogers' case, because they deemed it to be a runaway, right? And then they didn't change that. They were saying that all the way up until they scaled the search back, right? the first time. So, 8 days in, they're still operating under the assumption that Sebastian walked off. That's Eric Craddock's words. SI officer says Craddock should be a conflict of interest on the case, and same as Carter. I agree. Especially because Chris has come out and said that he knows them. So I absolutely agree with that. Robini says, yeah, turn into HR once it's on record. He'll either stop, get in trouble, and you then have a record if you ever get fired. Yeah, it's important to keep a paper trail. It's very important to keep a paper trail. I'm so sorry, Babs. I'm so sorry. Aww. Hey, Momming It Up. Good to see you, Mommin. Good to see you. I wanted to play Mommin's clip tonight, so I'm glad you're here, Mommin. Linda Hall says, in my opinion, I feel LE already knows the answer to this whole case. Who did it? The one person hurting the worst is Seth. He can't even get any real answers, and everyone else goes about their merry ways. They do, Linda. And, that is so absolutely well said. And I think that really sums up a lot of how Seth was feeling and the feeling that I got in the interviews when I was watching him, right? Because it was like he's standing outside, right? Ellie already knows the answers to the whole case and who did it. And he's out there hurting and he's begging, right? Like he always has, but he's begging like crazy now. And he's like, hey, what are you guys doing? Do you even care? And he can't even get any real answers. And everybody else is just on their merry little ways and, happy, living their best life and going on their merry little ways. But I wanted to play this clip from Mommin. So well said, Linda. Thank you. Thank you. I wanted to play this for Mommin because she's local, and the way that she says this is very, very important in my opinion. SI officer says protocol is protocol, and they should have always had their guard up, regardless of friendships, and do their damn jobs correctly. Absolutely. Yeah, because, it's kind of like, maybe you might have like a friend from high school or something like that. And then you find out, they've done something really horrible, right? And you're like, man, I really had some good times with that person. And, I never would have thought that they would do something like that, right? But it's not something that you're like, well, I'm going to stick up for them because, I remember when, I had this great hold my beer moment with this person, right? Or something like that. It's not proper. It's not right. It's not a good way of thinking, because when we do that and we bring nepotism in, or we bring in, that kind of good old boys mentality, it doesn't always benefit the victims. And more often than not, it doesn't help the victims at all. Unless you're on the receiving end of, being helped by, say, people that you've known for years. That could be a positive on the flip side of things, but that's not what we're seeing here, in my opinion. Well said, SI officer. Thank you so much. Babs says, no money replaces what happened, the neglect, the abuse, CPS looking the other way. Absolutely, Babs. Thank you. So well said too. And, the other two cases in New Hampshire, we have that. We have, Harmony Montgomery, the one where she's holding the doll. I remember her mother, Crystal, coming on. And now Crystal, she has admittedly not played the best mother role in this, right? She has not come out of this like squeaky clean, right? Like it's not like she looks good at all, right? Because she was neglectful of her daughter as well, because she was also on rugs at this time, right? But I remember her interview with Brian Enton, and she's telling him, can you imagine a little girl showing the counselors with dolls what's been happening to her? Can you imagine it? And I just remember looking at her like, oh my God, I can't imagine that. That's awful. That's terrible. Right. And if it wasn't for her mother, I don't know that they would have started, or even initiated any kind of search, right? So, I mean, even though her mother was neglectful, she still made sure that they were looking for her daughter. So, and she has to live with her, gosh, I can't even call it like a mistake or judgment call or whatever, because it was just, it's a horrible situation. It's a horrible situation, but she's been fighting. I really hope that she puts some of the money that she gets toward looking for Harmony, because she's somewhere out there. Her dad just won't tell us where he put her. And Sasha Johnson says, this is extremely relevant, Lady Freedom. There are more than one way to trap our enemies. Yeah. I can't even say it. You're so funny, Sasha. I love you. She says, what job? I could do that one. That's too funny. I love you, Sasha. You crack me up, girl. I know you're half serious, too, somehow. Somehow I don't think you're joking, but I'm laughing. Rogue says, Carla, I have for one more than a decade. And it's a common sense type of a thing, but we think of hurting people's feelings first in lawsuits. Yeah, well, absolutely. And you have to be careful with that, and that's kind of what brings me to Lily and Jack's update, right? We had Lily and Jack update. There's been a few things, kind of a timeline, buttoning up a timeline a little bit, which you guys know what I've said in the past about Lily and Jack's case. I really am very interested in the timeline, obviously first thing, but we never really could understand that because there was a time where the kids were seen by the bus driver and then not again until they were reported missing. But then we found out that they were actually, and let me put their picture up. Hold on, let me grab these two cutie pies. They're just so cute. Hold on. I mean, just two adorable little rays of sunshine, right? Oh, poof, vanished from their yard, from their own house. The parents were in bed. Just crazy. But we buttoned up a timeline because they were seen out with a family member in the community, so they were seen the day before they were reported missing. So that kind of does help us out a little bit there. They were said to have gone out this door. And the mother didn't hear the door because you can't hear the door, according to their mother. But they went out there and they were playing, but she didn't know they were playing. Just really crazy, kind of story there. Kind of outbuildings. This is an aerial view of where they went missing from. And, and I always preface it, granted, there's a road right there, right? Busy main road, or maybe just one of those kind of highway country roads, right? And then in this camper back here, up to the top right corner of your screen, you'll see the quarters where Daniel Martel's mother and brother were living as well, who were also, all home when the children just poof vanished. So, but we do have that. We do know that they went back and searched in the woods again after talking to Mr. Martel. Also, polygraphs were apparently, and let's pop these two little cuties back up. Polygraphs were also supposed to be administered, and they were talked about to begin with. And Daniel Martel told us that they were going to fly someone in because, they don't have a lot of polygraphers in and around the Canadian area, right? But then we find out that that's not true. Either way, he has allegedly taken this polygraph, and he says that the results were in his favor, although I don't know. That could mean a couple of different things, and Polygraphs are just basically there to tell whether somebody is being deceptive or not on certain questions, right? Because they measure your reaction to the questions, and then the polygraph machine will gauge that and say whether you were being truthful or whether you were being deceptive. There's, and you're kind of scored accordingly, right? That's kind of the basis for it. And it's really just to show whether somebody is being truthful or not. SI officer says it has been said that they went to school together and they were in scouts together and they grew up together, supposedly best friends. Wow. Yeah, CPS is broke, ? No, the system is broken. Absolutely, Rogue. Absolutely. And I don't know what type of well, I'll just say this. I do know in Canada we're probably not going to get like body cam. We're probably not going to get any type of information like we would get if we were to say get like a Freedom of Information Act here. I don't think that they have something like that, and I think that they keep things pretty closed. Rogue, Adam Montgomery is evil, absolutely, in my opinion, and he is definitely a murderer. He has been convicted, and he's serving hopefully the rest of his pathetic life in prison. And he needs to just tell us what he did with her so she can be put to rest. I mean, what a scumbag, Crispy might have been sleeping with that social worker, Carla says. Well, Crispy gets around. Crispy gets around. He's real charming when he's trying to get in those pants. We've seen how he handled Terry Lynn. Rogue says you get that everywhere. People worrying about other people feels. LOL. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely, Rogue. The feels. Sasha says from high noon on the 1st through high noon on the 2nd, May 2025, time frame of interest per the RMCP. Thank you, Sasha. Thank you. Yeah. So I don't know if we're going to get the results of the polygraph, right? Daniel Martel's a weird guy, in my opinion. I'm not saying that he's guilty. That's not up to me. But I'm feeling more and more guilty vibes coming from Daniel, and I don't like that because a lot of times that's correct. Gab says, Carla, the CPS worker was fired. He said he was familiar with her. Who the hell is happy about being familiar with CPS worker? Yeah, absolutely, Babs. Yeah, well, he bragged about it. He said, it was the same one from the last time. I mean, our friend Jana, she's a social worker. We love her. But, and I'd brag on being friends with her all day. But, I mean, at the end of the day, I absolutely hear you, Babs. It's true. And he brags about everything like that. He knows everybody. He was in court the one day collecting everybody's cell phones. Like, who appointed you as junior, deputy over there? Are they going to give you a badge or something? An honorary sticker? A McGruff crime dog sticker? Rob Beatty says they didn't even ask for footage still from the 27th on. Or, excuse me, didn't they? Didn't they ask for footage still from the 27th on? They did. They were asking for footage, and that's another thing in Lily and Jack's case. They were looking for footage as well. They were asking the public, right? They were checking trail cams. They were doing all of that, all of the things that need to be done when you're in an area such as they are, another home where there's woods all surrounding. the home. I mean, even more so in this case. But yes, they were asking for footage even before that. Remember, they went back in Sebastian's case, and they were going back and saying, you know, if there's Sebastian, but yeah, I mean, they were asking for footage even like Saturday, you know, prior to even earlier Sunday, right? They did. They absolutely did. Hey, Michelle, good to see you. Michelle says, bad part is if they did receive benefits, then probably froze them since it's been all over Canada news that they're still missing. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Oh, yeah. It's been all over the Canadian news. They really covered it heavily. Maybe not so much as maybe we would, but SI officer. I know, right? It's like, I don't want to know about Crispy's sexcapades. Thank you. Crispy is scum. Babs. You don't want to know about Crispy Stepfoot and his capades. Rob Aney says, I wonder why RCMP said a family member and didn't say who. That's a really great question, Rob Aney. Yeah, absolutely. There's a couple of things that I've been kind of questioning, but they seem to be very strategic, and they also seem to kind of be keeping a lot to the, you know, close to the vest, which is understandable. And, you know, I'm glad that they're doing that. It's important. Not to say that I don't want to know and that I'm not extra nosy about it, but if it's going to impede the integrity of the investigation or anything like that, we don't want that for those two little beautiful kiddos. You know, they deserve everything, just like Sebastian, just like Harmony deserves to be laid to rest properly. Sasha says we are in for some serious searching to find these children on West River. Yeah. It's going to take a lot to find all of these children, you know, Sasha, especially with the terrain that we're dealing with in many of these areas, you know. And even when we have a situation like when Adam Montgomery did leave a lot of digital evidence and footprints behind in Harmony's case, in terms of him renting a van or a rental vehicle, we'll say, he was basically on a direct path, but it's really a needle in a haystack situation, especially when he won't just come out and say it, even though he's in there and he's not getting out. It's a very sick thing when you have someone as deranged as Adam Montgomery, a true malignant narcissist, dark narcissist, and he has the power of knowledge over you. He will never stop dangling that because that is his narcissistic supply, and he literally gets off on that. He gets off on terrorizing other people. And anytime anybody asks him, where'd you put her, Adam? He loves it that he has the power and the control to say, wouldn't you like to know? He is pervy, in my opinion, Robini. He is pervy. He knows it. I don't see how women fall for that either, Rogue. And you know, we haven't seen the first 3 wives. I mean, we did probably see the first one when they had their wedding announcement in the paper. But, you know, I look at Nina and she's gorgeous, and I'm like, how did, you know, he must have had some, you know, really nice pictures on his profile. No, I'm just teasing. Yeah, he did say it was favorable for him, the polygraph. He did say that. Yeah. I wish he would have just said, you know, whether he passed or failed, but then, you know, we can never, but he said that he's not sure if he can, you know, actually do that, right? He's not sure if he can tell us because of what law enforcement hasn't told him that he can. And those are also things that really bother me because, again, we heard in even Sebastian's case where law enforcement doesn't really give out legal advice. I mean, yes, if they're trying to help you out with something and they're saying, these are your options, this is what you can do, they may say something like that, but they're never going to tell you that you can or cannot speak on something, right? They just don't really typically do that. Unless it's like an informant situation, obviously. There are circumstances where that would happen, but I don't believe people when they say things like that. And I definitely thought that was a red flag with Daniel when he said, I don't even know if I'm supposed to say, but then it's favorable. I'm like, I just didn't like that particularly. Didn't make me feel good, right? It's a little unsettling. Carla says, well, he thinks he's God and women love him, not Chris. Right. Oh, I know. He does. He thinks he's God's gift to everyone. He thinks he can break the internet. It's really, again, going back to the, dark narcissistic type of person and personality that we see in, a lot of these cases. I mean, that it's a heavy element, right? You'll typically see a dark narcissist, right? But just like Adam Montgomery, they really think that they're God's gift to the world, and that's the problem, and heaven forbid you don't agree with them, because that hurts their fragile little ego. And Michelle says, if parents had sick child at home, why no doctor visits, meds, etc., known for treatment for a child? Well, that's a good point. That's a good point, Michelle. Yeah. And a lot of times we don't see them being taken care of properly. We saw that with Harmony. She had issues with blindness, right? She was legally blind in one eye. She did come out of a lot of the problems that she had when she was first born, right? She was able to overcome so much, only to be taken out of this world too soon. Familiar, Rogue says, shaking my head. He's gross. He's so gross, Robini. They're all so gross. I don't even know which one you're talking about, but you're right about all of them. Right on all counts. Bab says, Lady Freedom, thank you for confirmation. Seriously, who would be happy about seeing a CPS worker more than once? No, I know. Absolutely, Babs. You're 100% right, I believe, in my opinion, because, yeah, you just don't, most people would be like, oh, shit. Like, they're here again. What happened, Or, you would just wonder, oh, crap, what happened, right? You wouldn't be happy, oh, hey, how you doing? You want some coffee? No, you'd be like, what? Oh, man, I mean, anybody would be upset. It's not a happy occasion, right? It's not like, hey, how you doing? It's not like seeing somebody out at the grocery store or something. Michelle says, if child was, oh, sorry, Michelle, I popped your comment back up here. Sasha says he may have been very guilty laying in bed, no cameras, unsafe environment, no safety, I don't know. Could be guilty for other things, moving her out there, not finding the children quickly. I don't know. Yeah, you're right, Sasha. You're right. Rogue says he wasn't supposed to do that, to give them to the Bluff. What kind of town is Sumner County? Mayberry. Rogue. Yeah, that's funny. It is like Mayberry, but I think we need an Andy Griffith. That's what they're missing. The bailiff collects the phones. I know, that's what I thought. I was like, this is weird. That is corrupt, right? That's how we think, or excuse me, this is why we think there may be a level of corruption and a little bit of nepotism involved in this, right? You see Mr. Proudfoot over there collecting people's phones, Eddie Haskell. And Bab says, if I ever met one CPS worker when my son was young, I'd be mortified, and I'd hope to never see that person ever again. Right. Well, absolutely. And, especially when these are mandated reporters who are calling these things in, right? We kind of can figure that out by the timing, right? And kind of what Chris said and how he explained it. Because after all, it did happen in their home. So I'm more apt to listen to what Chris has to say and Katie has to say for themselves, but we've never once heard Katie ever be held accountable for CPS being called into her home. Now, it's been said that there may have been some ABUSC involved in the DV fashion when it came to Chris and Katie. And I believe that. There's really no doubt in my mind, but that doesn't negate any of Katie's responsibility, in my opinion, because she is the adult in the situation and the mother in the situation, and she should have been protecting Sebastian no matter what, right? Even over her own self. Absolutely. And I even blame, Harmony Montgomery's stepmother for the same thing. I mean, allowing for Adam to continue to reach back and strike that child. I'd have been black and blue if I was still, alive to tell the tale, because I'm not saying that man isn't a disgusting scum bum from hell who doesn't have any regard for women or children or anybody for that matter. He's a complete psycho. But me personally, I couldn't just sit there and allow for that. It would have just been, no way. I would have shielded her. I would have jumped over on top of her and not allowed for that. But instead, this scumbag, Kayla Montgomery, collects a check on Harmony anyway, even after she had passed away, well over a year after she passed away. And I believe in my heart that she knows where Harmony is. I really, truly believe that. Babs22 says, if I ever met... Oh, sorry. I keep on popping these back up. Sorry, guys. I've always thought that the bus driver abducted these children. Familiar abduction, my opinion, speculation, alleged. Sasha, that's okay, Sasha. I mean, you never know. I don't personally think the bus driver had anything to do with it. I just don't. If I had more evidence, I might think that, but they do act like the cops coming over to the house is normal, raw beanie. Yeah, and most people don't like that, right? Most people, it's kind of like an uneasy feeling, right? You don't want the cops to come to the house because there's something going on, right? Unless you call them there. But I mean, obviously you would be caught off guard if that was the case with a CPS worker or, that type of situation. Rogue thinks that's a good analysis from Sasha. And I think everyone close to the children should be looked at. Absolutely. If we didn't do that, then we would be doing the investigation a disservice, right? Or we're missing pieces, right? But it's good to go back and make sure that we know all of the information first and everybody involved in the situation, so then we could use process of elimination and continue to narrow down the suspect pool, if you will. Bab says, I think RCMP didn't say who it was for the protection of the investigation and for the family members. Very possible, Babs. I agree. I agree. And we don't want to tip anybody off. It's important to keep details close. Sasha says she's checked off all the boxes for the iffy bus driver. Hey, Ann Brock, good to see you. I have to agree, Ann. There's some stupid people in this world nowadays. Just saying, I agree. I think it's a tale as old as time. Thanks for being here, Ann. Yeah. Brian. Yep, the bus driver. Mr. Brian. Lori. Desperation, says Sasha. Bab says, unless you've never been involved with a real narcissist, you have no idea the depths they will go to. They get off on games and veiled threats, etc. They do, Babs. Excuse me. They absolutely do. They absolutely do. They love it. they get off on the power and control. They eat it up. It is supplied to them. Like, like Mario getting a friggin' mushroom, man. Ugh. It's sickening. And I'm glad to be in your earbuds. I hope I sound good in your earbuds, Miss Ann. No, Town Chat Cafe, actually the social worker was not fired before Sebastian went missing. What happened is that Seth got a lawyer and he requested the paperwork for all of the DCF reports, right? Or CPS reports. And after he obtained those reports, or in the process of him obtaining those reports, the social worker involved was fired, which may have never happened if Seth didn't ask to obtain these reports, right? So every little thing that Seth has been doing, advocating for Sebastian, has led to accountability, has led to holes in the system, cracks in the system. And I really, again, can't say how important his advocacy and being Sebastian's voice is. It is of the utmost importance, because had he not obtained those records, that worker would still be employed, in my opinion. So, but thank you for your question, Town Chat Cafe. That's a great question, and I'm glad that you brought it up, because it's important to understand that and how the system works, right? Because only when they're exposed will they do anything about it. They knowingly kept this person employed, even though they were the very person who dropped the ball in Sebastian's CPS cases. Well, and Sasha, there very well could be someone like that on the loose. Yep, Robini. Actually, about the time Seth finally got the records, allegedly, the same week. I believe he got the records on a Friday, and she was let go on a Wednesday, I believe. Don't quote me exactly on that, but I believe that's pretty much how it went down. It was within the same week. SI officer narcissists are delusional. They have what is called delusions of grandeur, right? So they really believe that they are grander than they actually are. Which is very delusional thinking. It is. Bab says, SI officer, a true narcissist who's honed his skills over a lifetime, will break a person down and scare the hell out of you and make you think you're crazy. Absolutely, Babs. And that's what they call gaslighting or crazy making behavior. And the reason why they coined that term, if you will, is because of narcissists, right? Coined the phrase. Is because of narcissists and their behavior. Their behavior is not original. It's really, another thing that's as old as time, as old as human nature. Caveman narcissist. And Michelle says, but Daniel was unsettling due to he has been the only one under fire since mom took off, and haven't heard anything from her. Yeah, she's been extremely quiet. And she's also blamed him, or alluded to that he may have something to do with it. Obviously, they broke up and they haven't been in contact, to my knowledge. Kathy says, yes, I believe I would be in prison. I would already beat the truth out of the last person to see her alive. In my opinion, good thing I'm old and I'm not very close to their state. Oh, gosh. Yeah, it's so frustrating. It's so frustrating, Kathy. It is. Rogue says, I have never been in a live when Chris and Katie was there and I was home. In my opinion, they're persons of interest, and I refuse to address them, him especially. Yeah, I've never been in like a live chat when they were actually on panel. I've always seen everything on a replay for some reason. I think maybe, actually, no, I take that back. When Chris was on Granny a little bit ago, maybe the most recent one, I actually caught that in a live format. Somebody said Chris is on Granny, and I'm like, okay, I went over there. But again, I'm more, I'm more trying to listen in on what he's saying, because I want to hone in on like what he's saying and how I'm interpreting it, like the way that he's saying it. I wish that he would show his face and cam up, but he doesn't ever cam up. Oh, I didn't know that. Sasha says 18 plus Dark News also had a recent interview with Earhart for summer. Thank you for sharing that. Hey, Meow. Good to see you, number 62. Thanks for hitting that like button for me. Aw, thanks for being here, Meow. Carla says, Kathy, I can't imagine the hell you've been through. They will go before God one day. Absolutely. And Kathy, I'm sorry too. Oh, 1 second, guys. Okay. Ann Reynolds says, I had a friend that had CPS at her house about 10 or more times, and they didn't do a damn thing to take the kids. Oh no, that's a lot of times. Oh my gosh, 10 times? My Lord. And it really makes me think about a case that we covered in the very beginning, right? Of little Joshua McCoy. And he was nonverbal, about to turn 6 years old, used his phone as a device to communicate, extremely intelligent. His father said he could read and write by the age of 2 using the phone as the device to communicate. Just an extremely smart little boy. He was found about 1.5 miles away from his home in a straight line. His mother had CPS at the house several times before that. When they arrived at her home, when Joshua was reported missing, there was human feces everywhere. The home was full of bugs, and there were hypodermic needles strewn about, drug, everything. So, thank you for sharing that, Anne. That's crazy. It's crazy. And Joshy was still in the home. He was still in the home. Bab said, hold on, CP stated that 4 of them were on me. Thanks, Babs. Sasha says, one question I have, if you're innocent Proudfoots, let us search your properties and your families. Can we search your properties with the world's best dogs or not? One question, that is. That's it. Great question, Sasha. I agree. I think they should have searched all of it, every single bit of it. CP proudly stated that one of the 5 wasn't on him, meaning Katie. That's a great point, Babs. Michelle says, but I did see a shift on Daniel's demeanor when was answering about polygraph, asked if he took a polygraph. He stated with a tone of aggressive annoyance, mine was in favor and everybody needs to too. Yeah. Well, and what about everybody else too? That's a great point, because I don't understand why he was the only one that took one if they were all supposed to, take one. Carlos says, go Sasha. SI officer says, I doubt he even goes. He probably display demonic possession, catch fire in my, yeah, or laugh in my ass off. Absolutely. Oh yeah. And there's not enough holy water. I don't know. You called 4 times, Anne? Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Oh, Beagle. Okay, hold on 1 second, guys. He wants. I put my notebooks on the chair, and he wants up there. Give me 1 second. All right, sorry about that. He was crying. I was like, why is he crying? And he wants up there. Hey, Cinderella, good to see you. Good to see you. Good to see you. All right, guys, I'm a little bit almost caught up in chat. Oh yeah, Bab says to Rob Beatty when he was questioned about the 5 CPS calls or visits. Hey, Mammon says amen. All right, guys, I do want to. Hey, Betty H, I do want to play Mammon from the other night that we watched, but I really think this is so important for us to listen to again because of this is a local perspective from a mom.
And he was out there asking for the FBI to take over. He started a petition. I mean, this man has gone above and beyond. What else can he do? We need to ask, can they please just hand this over to give the FBI the lead? Because to me, I think this is very complex. We know that anybody that's reported on Sebastian shared his flyer, talked about him online. Lots of us were targeted for doing so. Some of us much more than others, especially if you were local. So, I mean, what can they do? Can they get the lead to the FBI? Can we do that for this young man and for the community?
Federal oversight law on places like CPS, DCS, the Amber Alert, getting it redone and taking it out of people's hands that don't care about the children.
According to the FBI, an estimated 400.
It concerns me. I mean, if they care so much about the children, why are we not taking certain things seriously? I'm going to be on later tonight and go over something that has been very concerning to me and many others in this case, and we're not quite sure if it's been taken seriously or not. You know, there's a lot of stuff that's concerning.
160,000 children are reported missing in the U.S. every year. Seth says every one of those cases deserves attention, including Sebastian's.
A parent demands answers. We demand answers because our heart is missing. He is my world. I need him. I need him back with me.
Amen. He should be found. He should be brought back to his father. Justice needs to prevail. We cannot just turn our heads on our children, especially our most vulnerable. They do not vanish. We all know that this does not add up. This doesn't make sense. And you have this weird behavior patterns with the mother and the stepfather. And they're saying many times we've heard law enforcement doesn't want us to say anything. We can't tell you things because law enforcement doesn't want us to. If it's about Sebastian's privacy, if it's about something to do with him, his medical, things like that, we don't need to know. But we need to know that you guys are doing your due diligence, and it doesn't feel that way. It feels like something's wrong here. Children don't vanish. Cameras all over that neighborhood. They picked up on people walking their dogs, cars coming and going, Ubers, airports. You can't expect us to believe that you don't know where this child is. You can easily pull all the cameras on the traffic lights, all the trail cams in the woods. Where is Sebastian Rogers? Please do something. You see something, you say something, and it really feels like it's the opposite happening. I don't know where the cog in the wheel is, but we need to protect our children, our most vulnerable, our complex disabilities, our cognitive disabilities, our impairments mentally, physically, emotionally. We have vulnerable people. We can all be vulnerable, and we are supposed to stand out there and be loud and protect them and advocate for them and advocate for one another when we need it. And this father has gone above and beyond, and it is time for us to be Sebastian's army, Seth Rogers' army, and the army of the most vulnerable, and rise up and demand that we have answers. Answers are out there. You could be the hero. Sumner County. You can be the hero, Hendersonville, TBI. Please do the right thing. I know you care about the children. I know you care about protecting and serving us here in this community. But please take seriously these tips you're getting. Don't dismiss them. Don't roll your eyes. Bring in the FBI. Give them the lead. This might be way, way more complex, and it is okay to ask for help. But what isn't okay is to not let this man know what's going on and not have his son home or any children home. So I just plead with the public to please take into consideration what you would do in this situation if your child was missing. And if you know something, call it in. Call law enforcement. Raise heck. Okay, the squeaky wheel will get the oil. Protect yourself. Believe in the Lord. Rise above. Good prevails over evil. Always.
I agree. I think that good prevails over evil always. Always. The truth always comes to light. If you see something, say something, call it in. So well said, Maman. So well said. Raise heck, because that's what needs to happen, right? That's what needs to happen. Bab says, I cannot believe that LE hasn't at the very least charged KP with neglect of her disabled son when she heard a thud and she didn't go check on him. Absolutely well said, Babs, right? Absolutely well said. Cameras all over the neighborhood, guys. Can't expect us to believe that you don't know what happened. Where is Sebastian? Again, well said, Maman. Come on, guys. You know, come on, law enforcement. Now, let's hear about what Katie says about the thud.
The night, Sunday night, when you said there was a noise, what type of noise do you think that was that you heard?
I'm not honestly sure. It sounded like he was messing with stuff in his room, which was not uncommon, which is why I said, hey, I don't know what you're doing in there, but you're supposed to go to sleep.
Okay. So you didn't check on him at that time, but did you check on him at midnight? Did you flick the light on and look to see if he was in the bed at midnight when you got up to go to bed?
No, and because I didn't have any reason to. You know, when he was little, I used to check on him all the time, but he's older now and he's 15, and y'all can figure out why a mother may not want to necessarily pop into a teenage boy's room unexpectedly.
Yeah. Let's see. Well, when Seth said that when he came, that everything was in pristine condition except for his room. Like, I know that the LE was there, and he said that the LE was there. Well, I mean, what did he mean by that? Was that just like the bed was unmade, or, you know, where you looked under things, or was it like, what did he mean by that?
Sebastian's room is always a little bit messy, but even more so with all the people coming in, all the law enforcement coming in and looking through things, me looking through things, like everybody was searching everything.
So I have a question then real quick. So You're asking that question, is that because there's somebody's trying to insinuate that we tried to cover something up because the house was clean? Or
No.
Please understand why I'm asking that question, because whether my house is dirty or clean really doesn't matter, but okay, I'm just trying to understand this.
Okay, well, I'll explain it to you. It's because I have a son that is autistic. He's 28 now, but I know it's all different types of children on the autism spectrum, but they like stuff in order. And so I was just wondering, like, I was just trying to think back, and I'm just wondering, like, what did Seth mean by that? Like, was it just because the bed was messed up? And then I know the cop, like doing these cases and stuff, I know the cops. So, I mean, it's not like you have to get paranoid that I ask you that. It's just, I was asking that because I was thinking back on things, not only personally, but because I was just trying to make sense of, and then when Katie said, well, it was just his room's out of order and stuff, I'm just thinking, well, you know, some kids, maybe they do, you know, if they're autistic, you know, I don't know. I just asked that question. When I ask questions, I just listen, let me just tell you this. When I ask questions, you don't have to necessarily look, I'm not the police. Okay. And you don't have to worry about how I ask questions. It's just, I also work for a retention center for 11 years, and it was my job to retain people and think outside the box. And that's what I do. It's a habit. So there's that.
So me asking that question back is because you've got a lot of viewers. I'm not saying your viewers. So let's make that super clear so that viewers don't get that construed with anything. But there's so many people out there with their insinuations, and because you asked that question, it would not surprise me to see a comment, well, that's because they cleaned the house before the cops got there. Trust me, we have seen it all, heard it all. People are putting stuff out there that is completely obtuse from the truth, and it is ridiculous. That's why I asked that question.
Well, so what? If it's completely obtuse and ridiculous, why is it such a big deal? And, you know, it's not our fault for asking questions, and that's not a stupid question. And why do you care if that's our response? Crazy. Mommin, I'm sorry. I probably scared you, and then I played Chris Proudfoot. Betty H. Thank you for being here, Betty H. Really quick, guys, I'll give a quick update on Lely. Lely is a little girl, my good friend's granddaughters. And she is battling with leukemia. Today I got I've been getting updates. Obviously, I've been in contact and everything, because she's a very close family member to me, right? And she's 2 years old, just recently diagnosed. And I took care of her before I moved to Florida. I babysat for her, and she's just a joy. That's her smile. That's just how she is all the time. But, you know, the chemo has kind of taken its full effect on her, and she, you know, has lost all of her hair. The good thing is that at 2 years old, she's not, you know, going to be terribly self-aware. And as long as everybody doesn't make a big deal out of it, I think that she's going to, you know, just keep going as usual, right? Kids are so very resilient. She's a beautiful child, and she's just always happy. They're thinking they might be flying her out to Seattle, Washington, if things don't work out with a bone marrow transplant. So, you know, she's had some blood transfusions. She has really been so strong because they are fighting this leukemia very aggressively. And she has really been hit with a lot, even chemo, you know, in her spine, because that's kind of the type of leukemia that we're dealing with. You know, they just need to be so very, very aggressive. And she's really handled it like a champ. So, you know, prayers for Lely. Thank you so much for asking, Betty H. And, you know, she's just a fighter. She's tough, and she's going to make it through. So, and with all of your prayers, and thank you so much for everyone's prayers. You guys are amazing. And thank you for just all of your love. I can feel it when I tell my family, you know, they are my friends, but I think some family members are chosen, and that's definitely the case here. So they feel it too, and they're very thankful for all of you guys. I made another kind of like a little tribute photo for Lely, so I'll post it on my community wall. But thank you so much for asking. That really means the world to me. And I almost forgot to give you guys an update. Babs says, Carla, he's very, sorry, Babs. Michelle says, I'm still learning about autism. I'm old school, and the big thing was ADHD, and over the years have seen autism diagnosis explode. Seems like everybody has or has somebody they love have it. Yeah, Michelle, I understand that. You know, and I think a lot of it was misdiagnosed, and also there's comorbidity, right? So you'll see autism with ADHD, and that's one of the characteristics that Katie was explaining as being part of his diagnosis was the ADHD. And a lot of those characteristics are mirroring the chromosome deletion that Sebastian has as well, just because there are certain traits that are found in both. So you'll see that, right? But I do remember a lot of people being diagnosed with the ADHD and things like that, and then now with autism. And with it being a spectrum disorder, you know, we can see a higher rate of diagnosis as well, because there's many different aspects, or there's how do I put this? There are many children that could fall on the spectrum of autism, right? Just like with Asperger's, they used to call it Asperger's, so super high functioning, right? You also have exceptional children, that sort of thing. It breaks my heart too, Lori. It does. It just does. Kathy Bartholomew says, in my opinion, I'm heartbroken for Seth, praying he gets answers soon. Thank you, Kathy. Absolutely. Absolutely. And just praying that he has the strength and he keeps going, and which I know he will. Inhumane treatment is a federal crime, 100%, Sasha. Thank you. Absolutely. Absolutely. And we all know how Chris talked about Sebastian. And Katie would sit right there and laugh, make fun of Sebastian, right along with Chris. Carla says, yes, Kathy, mine too. I don't think I would be as strong as Seth. I do know CP would no longer be here if I were Seth. Yeah, Carla. And you know, that takes an incredible amount of restraint, especially with some of the things that we've heard pop out of Chris's mouth, you know, and this is Chris being nice. We'll just play this one right here. But this because this is a short clip, it just kind of sums everything up. This is Chris being kind.
Very high functioning.
I mean, and that's why, like, I was trying to just put it out there, is like, everybody has come up with this idea, and that's not the case. People would know Sebastian, like, if we had never said he was autistic, people would not have a clue that Sebastian was autistic. They would thought something was wrong with him and not ever said autism.
Right. And you know what? If he
POS for a mom, Lori. Exactly. Who allows for that? There's nothing wrong with Sebastian. SI officer says, in my opinion, even if they did use jammers and that one block was frozen, as far as the cameras go, the surrounding neighborhoods, the surrounding highways, etc., they need to find where vehicles went. Absolutely. And I think the license plate readers, and they even had, we talked about it quite a while back, SI officer, about the county to county database that was formed not terribly long before Sebastian went missing, about a year, if I could remember correctly. And it was designed so that there was open communication and fast communication county to county throughout Sumner County and surrounding counties. And so that initiative in and of itself should have produced results if Sebastian was, say, walking around somewhere, or if somebody would have taken him, they would have seen him somehow, in my opinion. Rogue says, now why would she say that in front of over 1,000+ viewers? Those two have some perversion. Oh, absolutely. It's just like Chris Proudfoot showing that song, exposing Sebastian to that nasty old song by Chuck Berry. Well, and they could make themselves more useful. SI officer says, seriously, like, why even make the statement, just stop? You have a son with physical disabilities. You should have checked on him. Oh, absolutely, SI officer. Absolutely. You know, and Seth even said that in his interview with Bullhorn Betty, that he would have checked on Sebastian. I think it's this one.
I want you to kind of go back to the morning of February 26th, when you listened to your voicemail message and you heard Chris on it. Was it Chris that was on the voicemail?
The text message.
Text message. And
I had a missed call and a text message from Christopher Proudfoot telling me to 911. So I called him.
And what was that conversation like?
Don't be angry or mad. Sebastian's missing. What are you fucking talking about? My son is missing.
Did you find the statement, "Don't be angry or mad," odd?
Yes and no. I mean, my son's missing. You know, distraught would have been a better word. Confused on why he's gone. Mad and angry now. With what I know, yeah. Mad and angry fits now. But then again, what I know now is everything that Chris knew beforehand.
Did you get immediately concerned when you got that call that there was something seriously wrong? Did you just know immediately?
I left there and I was doing well above the speed limit trying to get to Katie's house to find out what's going on.
Looking back on that call you had with Chris, does anything now seem out of the ordinary or odd?
The lack of emotion, maybe?
Interesting. When you got there, what did Katie personally tell you happened? Did you guys talk when you got to the house?
When I got there, I assessed the situation before I walked in. There was law enforcement was everywhere, in and out the door, so on and so forth. By the time I got there, the dog people were there and the drone people were there. I was the last one to this stupid fucked up party.
What was it like when you arrived at the home outside of the craziness from law enforcement? You know, what was the behavior of the people, Katie and other people that were there?
When I walked in, Katie said something to me and then shoved her phone in my face. There was a picture of Sebastian, the one that you see him with his optimism shirt on. Started kind of confused me on why she's shoving a picture of Sebastian in my face. I know what my son looks like.
Do you know why she did that?
No, still don't know why. I just started looking to see what I could see. Obviously, my son's not there.
How long were you there?
Turned around and I was there for a little bit, just enough to talk, to find out what was going on, to find out if they had any evidence or if anything, to hear the evidence that was being said. And then I jumped in my truck and started looking for my son.
Immediately?
Within 30 or 45 minutes. I don't like a lot of people around me to begin with. And obviously my son's not there. And I'm under the assumption that he just walked out. So I jumped in my truck and started looking. Driving up and down the roads, screaming for my son.
Did you stay with Chris and Katie there for several nights?
I didn't stay the night, if that's what you're asking. Hell no.
Okay, so you guys didn't sleep. Well, because I had heard rumors that you and your family stayed there, and I was going to ask you about some.
No,
you know.
Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. They told us not to search. All right, they told us not to be getting out and walking through the forest and shit like that, looking for Sebastian. That they didn't want one of us to go missing while we're looking for our son.
Okay, guys, so, there you have it. I don't think that was the right clip, but it does describe what happened the morning that Sebastian was reported missing and what Seth's perspective on it was. I do have a couple of other clips that we could watch as well, just to kind of, because I think it's in the other one. But Bab says, my son was diagnosed with Asperger's and OCD at 4. He's 24. It's a spectrum, not one that size fits all diagnosis. Consistent care, consistent change, and adjustments. Absolutely, Babs. And it's not something that you can give someone a magic pill for, right? You have to go through therapies instead. So there are certain things that can be worked on and achieved through therapies. Thank you so much, Babs, for giving us that perspective. It's so important. Withholding food was another big issue, Sasha. Robini says, I had one son with ADD and one with ADHD, and my stepson had autism / Asperger's, and they kept changing his diagnosis. Yeah. And a lot of statistically girls are misdiagnosed with ADHD when it's really an autism spectrum disorder diagnosis. So absolutely. Thank you so much, Robini. It's so important to put that into perspective. Thank you, Carla. Thank you, sweetheart. I appreciate you guys so much. I know you guys are, thank you. Thank you, Town Chat Cafe. Absolutely. She's just such a happy little girl, guys. She's just been really going through it. It's been really tough this last week. It's the beginning. If you guys don't know about cancer, it's just, it gets worse before it gets better. No child should ever have to deal with that. Ever, ever, never. It's a travesty. And, we're pissed off at a disease, and there's not really a whole lot that we can do about it. And there's more money in treatment than the cure. So Lori says, I do not know one person with autism. I do. I do. I know a lot of people. I used to work with people who had all different types of abilities, right? Different abilities. And I think it's really important that people are aware of kind of how to even approach somebody, maybe who's on the spectrum, because of course, with the social aspect of it, it's tough to kind of describe. And as we heard Bab say, it's not a one size fits all, and then of course we do have the comorbidities and things that happen in conjunction with, they may have, like, for example, my friend's grandson is on the spectrum, but he also has cerebral palsy, right? So he's got a comorbidity and another diagnosis as well. But more so the autism, he has issues with sensory and different things like that, especially when it comes to food and different things. So it's just kind of, and we're all individuals, we're all different, right? There's not always going to be a one size fits all for anything. So, but thanks for sharing, Lori. And Bab says, too many doctors listen to parents. She is hyper, can't focus, blah, blah, blah. And the doc writes a script for meds way too much. Absolutely, Babs. I agree with that 100%. I think that they really need to get more in depth when they're diagnosing children and make it more individualized, because everybody's different. You're so right. You're right. And all kids are hyper, right? I was a hyper little kid and nobody said I had ADHD. I was really hyper too. We're all hyper when we're little. We got a lot of energy when we're little. It's when we get older, it dwindles down, right? And Robini says, I had one son. Oh, sorry, Robini. I kind of went backwards in the chat there. Rogue says, my father had no restraint, so that man would need to run or something. Seth shows restraint because of his son. He does, and he knows that he is his son's voice. And so if he does something that is radical, right, then his voice is silenced. That is so important, and I think the main reason, and I think it's something that is very admirable in my opinion, because it takes a lot of self-control, and also just reminding, I'm sure it's a daily, maybe even an hourly reminder, might be minute-to-minute reminder, because, the level of frustration rises and you feel like I need to do something, right? Because a solution needs to happen, and it can be very easy to fall into a trap of anger. What I've seen from Seth is hashtag keep the faith, hashtag Sebastian strong, right? And I think that message is so much stronger than a punch to the face. I really do. And I think it's the much more noble way of handling it. Betty says, look how CP stutters when he talks about Sebastian. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Oh, he absolutely does not like Sebastian, in my opinion. Yeah. Robini says, Betty H. trying to replicate authentic feelings and all lies, in my opinion. We've seen a lot of that, right? In this case, where people are just basically, they're not cammed up. but they're sitting over there, definitely bringing on the waterworks when in reality it's just all a grift and they don't really care. Very fake and inauthentic. Bab says Chris always thought something was wrong with Sebastian, and Katie allowed any abuse from Chris to happen. I'm done with the, in my opinion, BS. Katie allowed any abuse to happen to Sebastian. Absolutely. I agree, Babs. And I go back to Sebastian's 15th birthday party when they're at the game room, and it's like the game show simulation that they go to for Sebastian's birthday. And Katie most definitely allows Melissa Proudfoot to sit there filming Sebastian, even when Sebastian's upset and he's going to Katie to let her know it. The camera's right in his face. She should have told Melissa to back up. Absolutely. No doubt. That is on camera. Cannot deny it. Will not deny it. No opinion necessary because it's right there. We all lie, the cameras don't. Yeah, it is. And I thought about it too. Rogue says she can't stand saying, in my opinion, either, Babs. And I can't stand it either because it is frustrating, right? I mean, it's like, especially when it's right there. I had that issue when I first started on YouTube, but then I realized, you have to because other people can, use it against you later. SI Officer says, I have always thought he begins with, don't be mad because he is guilty of doing something, in my opinion, allegedly. Very well said, SI Officer. I agree. Yeah, it makes the most sense. Don't be mad, right? What if this goes south? He also said that too. And look at all the people trampling around the crime scene, just woohoo. Bab says, Rogue, my son, OMG, he's a genius. Can he drive? No, but he's a genius and is in college with a 3.87 GPA in calculus and physics. That is fantastic. I definitely couldn't get that type of GPA if I was in calculus and physics. Definitely not. Oh, that's awesome, Babs. And you know what? That's fine if he can't drive. You know what I mean? Different abilities. That's why I like saying that, because he can do something many of us can't on the planet, right? He has a deeper understanding of these subjects, which are super tough subjects, right? And most of us can drive, but most of us can't do what he can do. So, I mean, just to put it in perspective, it's amazing how, just because people are quote unquote normal, we think that that's, awesome. But look at your son. That's just amazing. Thank you for sharing that. You have to be so, so proud. I know I am, and I don't even know him. Bam says, SI Officer, if I had called my ex-husband and said, don't be mad, but XX is missing. OMG, right? Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Rogue. SI Officer says, and in my opinion, the conversation probably went something like, don't be mad, but Sebastian was up to old behaviors. He was disciplined. We disciplined him. He got upset, ran off. Yeah, the blame Sebastian theory, right, SI Officer? It just doesn't work for me. Rogue says, people like CP are ignorant, meaning lack of knowledge, and don't care to be educated. I agree. They think they're the smartest one in the room, though, right? They just do. They do. Good night, couponing. Thank you for being here. Thank you. Yep, he was about. Rob Beanie, absolutely. CP was jealous of Sebastian's intelligence, in my opinion. CP was jealous of Sebastian's good looks, in my opinion. CP was jealous of Sebastian's smile, the way that he could draw people in that Chris couldn't. Chris is into manipulating others, in my opinion, with his charming ways, but Sebastian was so pure in his intentions and just a kind, loving, caring person, right? We saw him at the Texas Roadhouse. It says a lot, especially when you've been in a food service position, when you see someone being treated with respect and just common decency, and when someone is polite to a service worker, that always shows me someone's character, in my opinion. Katie, on the other hand, acted like she was the Queen of Sheba. SI officer says again, in my opinion, KP shoved a happier version of Sebastian into Seth's face, remembering when he was happy versus possibly what really happened the last time she saw him, allegedly, in my opinion. I agree with that, SI officer. And, you know, she's shoving the camera in his face with a picture of Sebastian from Costco from the day before, right? The Optimism t-shirt, which I'm not even quite convinced it was from the day before, because it definitely looks like a dated picture, in my opinion, of Sebastian. Look, he's happy. But then we hear that he wasn't quite as happy as Katie portrayed him to be when he found out that he wasn't going to be able to go bowling as planned. And again, we know that when a routine or when something was expected and it doesn't happen, when people on the spectrum are involved in a situation like that, it brings their anxiety up. Not saying that it does to everyone, but there could have been a reason. That could have been a reason for maybe a meltdown, especially with all of the activities in that day, and perhaps Sebastian being overstimulated in that environment, in my opinion. With the window down, Rob Beanie, and we don't see that. Bab says Chris was so jealous of any time that Katie spent with her son. Yes, Babs, thank you. That's another one. Any time that Katie spent with her son, he demeaned and hurt Sebastian, and Katie allowed any abuse to happen to Sebastian. She chose Chris over her son. I agree with that 100%, in my opinion, Babs. Very well said. Anytime that Sebastian needed something, Chris was jealous of it. Anytime that Katie showed Sebastian more attention than Chris didn't like it, because narcissists love to be the center of attention. And when they're not, they'll triangulate, they'll manipulate, they will gaslight, and they will turn the situation completely upside down just so they can gain control back. They also are in the business of demeaning others and hurting others. I agree that Sebastian was demeaned and hurt by his stepfoot, Crispy Proudfoot. And Katie allowed for this to happen. Most definitely. We've watched it happen and play out in the interviews where Katie will sit right there and laugh with Chris about Sebastian's unique rhythm, about Sebastian, how he dances, about Sebastian's hygiene. Every single thing that you would expect a bully to say, Katie has said about Sebastian, in my opinion. Thanks, Babs. So sad. 100% so sad. 100% not what Sebastian deserved. Rogue says Katie Proudfoot shoved her cell phone in Seth's face. Do you all know the Kyron Horman case? The stepmother, Terry Horman, is a suspect, and she shoved her phone for proof of life at the school in Kane's face. I do remember that, Rogue. Thank you so much for bringing that up. That is absolutely, allegedly, my opinion of what happened, and we did hear that come out in Kyron's case. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that Terry's guilty as sin. SI officer says TP enabled the abuse, the torture. She should have protected that mother's love does. However, we know that's an issue. I agree. And I think that there was a major disconnect. I do think that Katie loves Sebastian, but I think that her love for her husband trumped that. We've seen that very many times in situations where there's a non-biological parent in the home. And I'm not saying that all non-biological parents are bad or all mixed families are bad or blended families. No, no, no. But we do see that dynamic in a toxic form when we look at cases like this, and it is part of the patterns that we see in these cases over and over. No doubt. No doubt. Oh, KP. Yes, SI officer. Thank you. Rogue says Kane Horman is the dad of missing Kyron. Are finally getting justice with the new sheriff. This is in Oregon, and Kyron Horman's case. So Terry Horman's stepmom did the same thing as Katie did. Sure did. And thank you for reminding us, Rogue. I appreciate you for doing that. Hey, Kiki 2025 True Crime. Good to see you. Many docs listen to the parents and don't send the children through the steps for diagnosis for ADHD, autism, Asperger's, OCD, and they just want to throw a pill to calm the child for the parent's sake. I agree, Babs. And, I've thought that too about teachers. And, I know there's great teachers out there, but I feel the same way. We see that a lot. We see that play out many, many times, right? Kiki's been researching. I'm glad you're here, Kiki. Bab says, my son has major sensory issues, food, OCD issues, and other things, but it's about being an attentive parent and good doctors who pay attention. Absolutely. And again, with the therapies and things like that, a lot of that can be corrected. And, just gentle reminding and, like you said, care, compassion, love, helping someone through it. Another really good example that and even the Proud Feet said it in the interview with Holly Thompson, that Seth is very good about explaining and showing Sebastian important life skills like navigating left and right and how to take familiar routes. That's so important. There's many people like me who are directionally challenged, and if I have a GPS, it'll probably be telling me something, and somehow I'll get lost and I'll blame the damn GPS. But those things are life skills, right? I mean, being directionally aware is important. It just is for making it through life. Sasha says, too fake the food for the children. Maybe they are not autistic, just authentic, or maybe inauthentic, Sasha says. Robini says they put mine in a room with a two-way mirror and toys. Then when they got interested in one toy, they sent me in to try to take them off task and redirect him to a different toy. Oh, okay, that's interesting. I've never heard of that. They used to do that a lot too with the kids, right? The double-sided mirrors and things, so they could observe behaviors. Bab says, I sadly believe that Sebastian had to show restraint to not tell his dad about things that were going on. He was torn between two worlds, anger, trust, peace, too much for that young man. Absolutely, Babs. And I agree 100%. Sebastian was definitely living two different lifestyles, right? When he'd go to his dad, he would get the solace that he would be in his little sanctuary, right, where he felt safe. And then he would have to go back to the House of Horrors, in my opinion. And I believe that he struggled, and I agree, because many, many times we see this in abuse victims. They don't want to get anybody in trouble, but they don't want it to continue. They just want it to stop. And so sometimes they're stuck in between a rock and a hard place, especially when it's a child. And that's why we have to be so adamant about advocating for children who don't have really a choice in the matter. And that's really where Sebastian was. He was in between a rock and a hard place. He loved his mom. He didn't want to hurt her. He probably didn't like Mr. Chris at all. At all. I'm sure there was a lot of tension. As we get older, we start realizing things, right? Even if you grew up in an abusive, toxic home, you could probably look back and remember a certain time in your teen years, and maybe even as early as some of us being adolescents or preteens, thinking, I'm sick of this abuser, whoever they are. Say it's a mother, say it's a father. I'm sick and tired of this. Or maybe you go over and you stay all night at a friend's house for the first time and you realize, oh my gosh, nobody's yelling. Nobody's fighting. Nobody's drinking. Nobody's doing drugs here, right? And you realize that the life that you're living is not normal and that other people have a totally different environment that they live in. And when you can see that, when it becomes clear and you can conceptualize that and understand it, it makes it to where it becomes very unacceptable, and you start to kind of break out of your shell and decide, I'm going to stand up for this because this is not right and this is not normal. And we don't know if Sebastian hit that breaking point. We often talk about Chris Proudfoot and his temper tantrums and his outbreaks and his meltdowns and more like outbursts, and his meltdowns and his screaming and yelling and his just fits, right? But we don't really think that much about what Sebastian was going through internally, or what Sebastian was feeling like, what he was thinking. And maybe he hit his breaking point with Mr. Chris. Thank you, Babs. Oh, Lori's going to take her doggy out. Kiki says, in my opinion, wondering since seems like a lot is being held secret from Seth, which makes me mad. Makes me wonder if they put him in a home or something. I'm praying they find him soon. Yeah, Kiki. And, I apologize. I wanted to bring you guys more about the schools. I still have the research. I wanted to do kind of a whole big update show. And then I also got some wonderful news from our friend Jana that I shared in the beginning of the show. And so I wanted to make it more of an update show. Where have they all gone? Something like that. But we're definitely going to get more in depth about a lot of these different scenarios, the school being one. Bab says, Lady Freedom, yes. And Katie allowed Melissa to back off and to shut up. And I would have in a heartbeat. We know Melissa felt the same about Sebastian as Chris. Oh, absolutely. And she was messing with, sorry, I had an itchy ear. She was messing with him in the beginning of the video. And he's like, Aunt Melissa. And he's looking at her like, and giving her that look as if a parent would to a child who is misbehaving in public. And that's exactly what Sebastian did. Aunt Melissa, let me see if I have his little face that he's making at her. Damn bullies. They make me sick. See, that's just just thinking about his little face makes me so mad. Dang it. I think I might have. No, I think I might have taken it out. Said Aunt Melissa like that, right? Like, stop, and because he's in public and he knows that he's not supposed to yell out in public, right? But why is she acting like that in public? Sick. Oh, there we go. I found him. Look at his face. That's his birthday party. That is his 15th birthday party. Right before he went missing. Aunt Melissa, stop it. Aunt Melissa, you're a bully. Aunt Melissa, quit picking on me. Mom, Aunt Melissa's been picking on me because she didn't stop. She kept on. Sitting there filming him, pissing him off the whole time. The hell? There's Katie. Look at her. That's perfect look on her face. That's kind of how she was. Oh well. Let's piss Sebastian off at his birthday party. What, because you guys think it's funny? It's sick, is what it is. It's sick and it's immature. Look at his face. He looks like an angry parent. scolding a child, an immature asshole. Sick. Thanks, Babs. You reminded me of that. Betty H says, I've been saying that whatever happened to Sebastian, it happened in that house. It had to have, if we're to believe that he went home and made it home from the Texas Roadhouse, unless he was still alive allegedly when they took him out of the home, which I pray he was. Thanks, Babs. She says, sorry, I meant to say Katie would have told Melissa to back off. Yeah, she should have told him to back off. Like, how could you let someone piss your kid off at their birthday party? How could you let anybody in general piss off anybody at their birthday party? Isn't that the one fucking day where you leave people alone and you're actually good to them? Can you please have one friggin' day for it? Or is that too much to ask, a bunch of bullies? Robini, even LE said, no proof he ever left the home. Sasha says, I know all you saw was these people bullying a special needs child on his birthday. That's disgusting and evil, and it's illegal. It's like a hate crime, my opinion. Well said, Sasha. Yeah, I think it's a hate crime. Absolutely. Absolutely. You're taking someone, a minority, right? And you're bullying them and you're videotaping it. How come nothing was done about that? That was right before Sebastian went missing, by the way. He turned 15 in December of 2023, right? In February of 2024, we're expected to believe he just vanished off the face of the earth. Bab says, my son is going to make such a difference in the world. I just know it. Yay, Babs. And see, this is a proud mom. This is a proud mom. And how dare any mother allow for this? Makes me sick too, Kiki. Thanks, Betty H. Kathy says, in my opinion, true. LE should have cleared the house as soon as they arrived. How could they do or conduct a proper investigation with a full house of people trampling over everything? They can't, Kathy, in my opinion. It's impossible. Bab says, my son calls me out when I get a fact wrong. Does it offend me? No, but I can see CP getting so pissed off when Sebastian called him out on his ignorance and statements. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Because a narcissist is always right, right? They're right fighters. They're always right. Nobody's smarter than them. And it bruises their fragile little ego, anybody correcting them at all, instead of them looking at it like constructive criticism or being like, you know what, damn kid, you're smart, because I personally look at younger folks that way. Like, I'll look at younger folks and I'll be like, wow, you guys are, evolution, right? You guys are smart, and you're our future, right? The children are our future, and you look at them and you're like, wow. And that's what we want for our future, right? We want intelligent people. Not just a bunch of sheep walking around, not thinking for themselves and just doing whatever, somebody else wants them to do. No, we want free thinkers. We want intelligent people and intelligent young people, like you said, Babs, people like your son who are going to change the world. People like Sebastian who have changed the world, in my opinion. He has brought so much to light in the last 15 months. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. And we have Sebastian to thank for that. Anne says, I have something to tell you about my son, and I don't know how to word it, but because he was Mean to the doctor's office, they put him on Prozac, and he was just 5 then. Oh my goodness, and that's a heavy duty antidepressant. Oh my goodness, honey, I'm so sorry. See, and they're very quick to do that with the kids. They're very quick to do that. That's another thing that I really agreed with Seth on, was, over medicating children or just saying they're hyper, give them this to calm them down. It's not good. Deb says, Lady Freedom, I totally agree. That picture could not ever be from the day before Texas Roadhouse on Sunday. It's not even the same glasses. Amen, Babs. And then they slapped that baby like right on the missing posters everywhere, right? I mean, everywhere. It's on the FBI right behind me. This one right behind me. It's absolutely crazy. Not the same glasses, and Sebastian's haircut is different. His face looks younger, in my opinion. Same beautiful smile. Well, and see, that's exactly, Robbie. Well said. My son with autism was the same. Not trying to be rude, just wants things done a certain way. But some people take offense. Right, exactly. And, and they're very adamant about it, right? In my opinion, from other children on the spectrum or individuals that I know, it's like, no, you're wrong. You know what I mean? Like, no, you don't understand, And they will really bluntly and very honestly, very matter of fact. Some people will take offense to that, especially people who are not compassionate and don't take the time to meet the individual where they're at. And that's one of the biggest takeaways when I was showing special books by special kids, that so many of the parents would say that, and they do say that. You have to meet this individual person where they're at. You can't expect that individual person to meet you where you're at, because it's not about you when someone has autism spectrum disorder, right? It's really about understanding that person's needs over your own. And a narcissist can't quite ever figure out how to do that in life. Some of them can mirror and just only to manipulate, or to charm. But absolutely, sorry, Robbie, I thought I put you up there. But absolutely. And it's understanding the person that would allow you to understand that it's not something that they're being rude or they're not trying to be confrontational. They're just very matter of fact. Yeah, Bab says, my son is the same way, and if it's out of the norm or anything, it's disrupting for him. Well, absolutely, because they're so used to that routine, and it's what they're used to, and they don't like to be taken out of that. That causes great anxiety, right? It causes a lot of issues. Good morning, Tony Fire. There you are, my friend. Good to see you. Good to see you. We want enough already. Tony Fire says, enough already. We want justice for Sebastian. Arrest CP and KP. It's moving too slow. Yes, thank you, Tony Fire. Peace to you, my friend. We love you, Tony. I gave you a shout out earlier because I forgot. I forgot to add you in the other day. So, so good to see you. Bab says all they've ever said is demeaning to Sebastian. So sad. He deserved so much more, and I believe he has so much more than either of them will ever experience. Absolutely. And they know that. And that's what bothers Chris. It just does. Hey, Vic. Good to see you. Thank you for being number 73. Hello. Robini says, yes, Kiki, if you don't, they will be in turmoil all the time. Why do that to them when you can adjust your actions? Amen, Robini. It's about having compassion and care for another human and understanding that they are going through something that they cannot help. If you can look at an individual with autism, especially a child, in a meltdown situation where they are absolutely fighting to regulate their emotions. It's heartbreaking. And for anybody to torment somebody that already has trouble, they ought to be ashamed of themselves. They ought to be ashamed. Betty says, I have a question. How do the law enforcement agencies let all these children slip through the cracks and can still live with themselves? I don't know, Betty, because I know there's so many out there that are just like hitting the pavement, sleeping in their offices. You know, there's so many people that just eat, sleep, and breathe these cases. We need somebody like that. We need a hero. We need someone. We need someone. Thank you, Betty. Kiki, we're always glad to have you. Babs says, Lady Freedom's raw narratives, girl. If someone says go east on this road, I'm like, what? That's me too. I'm like, left or right, and is there like a McDonald's over there that I can, you know, if you could be like right by the go right at McDonald's, that's even better. Landmarks, right? Landmarks. That's so funny. I wish I was better with it too. Don't even try to give me a map. I'm like, forget about it. Robini says, my stepson warned my heart. He told me I was more of a mom to him than his bio mom. Aw, that is so heartwarming. Aw, Robini. Well, he sounds like he's so lucky to have you. And you know, that's so important, especially in a blended family. Be the good parent for these kids, right? Don't get involved with somebody that has kids if you're not going to be able to do that. If you're not going to be willing to come into that family unit and make it better, then keep fucking walking. Why would you even go into it? Why would you even insert yourself into a single mother or a single father's household and act that way? I don't care if they have a biological parent or not. That's not the point. You're the one living in the house with the child the majority of the time, or you're the one that is supposed to be a role model for that child. So if you're not going to be prepared to be that for that child, keep walking. Don't stop. Don't even look over there at those people. Betty says, Mod Chat, have a good night. Good night, Betty. It's late. I have to get up early in the morning. Good night, Betty. And thank you so much for being here. We so appreciate you. And Bab says, I think Sebastian was realizing I don't have to live like this. And he reached out for help at school to his teachers, and they tried to help him. I agree. And I think he was also being truthful with his counselor. You know, he might not have told them everything, right? Because even kids know to hold certain things back because they may be protecting someone, right? But I completely agree. I think that he was realizing that, and I think he was asking for help. And Sebastian didn't have trouble asking for help, right? He didn't have trouble going on the internet and looking up, what do I do when I'm being bullied, right? He was looking for resources and help. He wanted it to stop. There you go. Turned by the big blue house. That's right. That's right. Exactly. Exactly. They are sadistic, in my opinion, Sasha. Very sadistic. Normal people do not get off on others' pain and suffering. Bab says, I absolutely relate to Sebastian. At 15, the turmoil, hiding abuse, trying to act like everything is okay, family asking, mom telling me to not ever tell anyone anything. Yeah, Babs, and I'm so sorry to hear that. You know, it's like, that's really how it was, though. Even when, you know, when I was growing up and stuff, too, you don't air your dirty laundry, right? It's none of no one's business. That's how abuse perpetuates. That's how some people don't make it out alive. Some people don't survive it because of that mentality. Aw. Sasha, I mean, you know, if you told me what was happening to Sebastian, I would think he was a prisoner of war. Let's not forget what Seth told us. Seth said it clear as day. If we knew what Sebastian was enduring before he went missing, we would not be able to sleep at night. We would not be able to sleep at night if we knew what Sebastian was going through. If we could read the CPS reports, which are kept confidential, and they are confidential because there's no accountability, and heaven forbid the public finds out how DFS, CPS, Department of Family and Children's Services, whatever you want to call it, really is like, just like Little Harmony's case. They would rather pay out $2.2 million than to ever be exposed, than for the truth to ever come out, or for the people who needed to be held accountable be held accountable. They would rather take tax dollars and give it directly to the parent of a missing and child who's been declared deceased, who has still not been found. They'd rather just pay that parent off and tell them to shut up. Deal with it. This is what we think your child's life is worth, $2.2 million. It'll never be enough. There's not enough I'm sorry's. Harmony Montgomery was taken out of this world where she could have made a difference, where I believe she would have made a difference. Look, she's a survivor. But instead, the very person who gave her life, because it takes two people, took her out of this world and didn't allow us to reap the benefits of her presence on earth. It's just not right. But $2.2 million, it's like a slap in the face. So many people, so many children are raised this way. Too many children are raised this way. Why did Melissa have to treat him that way? Kiki, you know, because she's a damn bully. She's a bully, and she's probably bullied. I mean, look at her, you know. So let's take it out on Sebastian. I don't like what I see every day when I look in the mirror. So let me go over there and pick on Sebastian. Absolutely, Sasha. Absolutely. So while Aunt Melissa is acting out and Sebastian is scolding her like a parent who in public, she just thinks it's funny. She's sitting there filming it and she doesn't stop. Nope, she keeps on going until the very end. And Katie just lets it happen. Katie was standing over there the whole entire time that Sebastian is being bullied right in front of her. Don't tell me you didn't see her doing it, Katie. Don't tell me that you didn't look across the room at your son and see his face. This one right up here on the right hand of your screen. Seeing his face. That should have been game over. But instead you let her sit there and do it to him on his birthday. That is sick. That is not right. Oh, everybody in the public. No, you. It's you. It's the footage that we see. It's this. It's this right here. What happened to Sebastian's neck right here? What happened to him? What'd you try to cover up? Because you did an awful job of it. So I don't know who's responsible for this mess right here, but it's very apparent that that child was grabbed behind the neck and had some sort of a bruise that you guys are trying to cover up or mark something. Come on. Sebastian didn't have access to any electronics. Sebastian wasn't abused. He had a cookie cake. Please. Spare me. Robini, I mean, and they act like they would, that they're able to beat or abuse the autism out of him. Yeah, because that's going to help. Because we can't beat the stupid out of Chris, so I don't know how we would be able to beat the autism out of anybody. But we can't beat the stupid off of Chris. I mean, come on. It's just absolutely insane. Sasha says, that's sad. She was too scared to say anything, I guess. Yeah, absolutely, Sasha. And that's what it comes down to. Like the Ramsey case, Vic, trampling all over that crime scene, buddy. Ellie screwed it all up from the beginning. I mean, they dropped the ball, definitely. You know, let's get that crime scene real nice and messed up, but we're not even treating it like a crime. We're operating off of the, assumption that Sebastian just walked off. No one said she was scared. She allowed the abuse to happen to her son. I agree with that. I think she did allow it. I mean, she did in the video, right? She's done it several times. Kathy says, Lady Freedom 100%, the point being they couldn't. Thanks, Kathy. Aw, you guys. Yeah, well, that's the thing, Miss Ann. It changes the kids. Think about taking any kind of rugs in your whole life. It affects you, right? There's side effects. Miss Ann says, and my son was not my son on that medication. I took him off of it. Yeah, and you were right to do that, Miss Ann, because, only a parent knows how their children act and everything. Good night, Kathy Bartholomew. It's so good to see you always. Thank you, thank you. Good night. Sleep well, Kathy. Welcome back, SI officer. We need a hero. We need a hero. We do. Kiki says we have friends who became friends, or who we became friends through my son's being in football and going over to her son with autism and sitting by himself at lunch and asking him to come sit with the football players. Proud mom. Oh, see, that's wonderful. That is fantastic. And those are like the smallest things that you could do to make somebody's day, guys. I mean, seriously, that's what it's all about. That's kind of what we need more of, right? It's important, because would you want to be the one sitting all by yourself? Come on, nobody wants to be that person. So why wouldn't you invite somebody over to sit with you? Is it going to kill you? No, it's not. You might even meet somebody new. Maybe you'll meet somebody different. Oh, hell. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I like all different types of people. Sometimes that gets me in trouble. But I like different personalities. I think it's boring. Just, I like when people have like a spicy personality, or when they have a zany personality, or when they're silly, I mean, we all have something to bring to the table, right? But I mean, I would rather be around somebody that's different and unique than somebody that's just the same as everybody else, pushed out of the machine, no, thank you. No, thank you. Thanks, Robini. Hey, Meep. Meep says, next to need to search into the part-time cop neighbor a little more. Yeah, I have done a little bit of research on CC. I have. Seems to me to be a decent guy. I just don't know that he turned in the camera footage that was necessary. And I think he may know more. I also have heard allegedly that he was at the command center. He was also at a vigil where he left crying and saying it's bad, it's oh so bad. That's right, Kiki says, and I don't blame you, hun. A mother knows a child more than a doctor. Absolutely. Absolutely. We do the best we can, for our children. Something is slowing up this case. Meep, I agree. Where's the bottleneck, right? Where is the bottleneck? I so agree. Sasha says, I can't get past the dog jumping into the retention pond and that water coming from the crawl space. Yeah, that's a great point. That's a great point, Sasha. And like I said, that might have been a way to bypass the fence. But then what about the 3 a.m. lights? I'm wondering what's going on, unless the evidence was handed off and it was put somewhere, something like that. I can see, Oh, good, Rogue. Welcome back. Welcome back. Hey, Mama. Good to see you. Everything decided to go dead when I'm busy. Rogue. You got that phone on fire over here. Sasha says, then law drains a 2-foot pond. That would get rid of the scent, and then the parent and step-parent leave and stop running water from their home and the crawl space. Yeah, Sasha. All valid points. And I haven't forgot about the crawl space. Babs says, Seth knows what's in the CPS reports that he was not privy to because of CP and KP. Seth lives with that every day of his life. Amen, Babs. And I just recently watched something, I can't remember, but they were showing Seth's interview where he actually said, I found out on a podcast that my son was being abused. Again, can you imagine, right? It's unimaginable, really. It's unfathomable, really, I can't believe Caleb Montgomery only spent 2 years in jail, Rogue. I mean, for crying out loud. I'll never get over Harmony's case, me neither. Me neither. I'll always spread awareness for her because she needs to be found. She does. She needs to be found. And I want to see Adam's face when she's found. I just want to see a shot of the look on his face when we find her. Because she needs to be found. All right, guys, I'm going to play this next clip. And I know we've watched this before, but I have them loaded in here, and I think it's important. I want to make sure. I hope this next one is about the thud.
But I'm not law enforcement in this case. I'm a suspect.
And you have not been cleared?
No, nobody has.
If you had a list...
I think it's kind of hilarious, but,
And actually, I'm going to kind of go on a little tangent here, but just to clarify, where do you work?
I work for Davidson County Sheriff's Office.
And what is your job, or your job title?
Deputy Sheriff, and I work in the Corrections Department.
And where were you the night that Sebastian disappeared?
At work.
And you said you were at a
correction center.
And so you were at a jail.
I was in jail.
so you were in jail, and I'm sure there's probably, with it being a jail, it's a very secured area.
Oh yes, I am on camera arriving at 6 p.m. into the garage, which is a secure garage. You have to have badge access to get in or out. And then I'm leaving at like 7:30 the next morning, exiting out of the garage. When they came in on Monday, that he disappeared, they trashed his room, flipped mattresses over, took sheets and blankets and stuff off of his bed, went through his stuff. And I told them when they came in, I said, listen, his room is probably a mess, just bear with it. And when they walked in, they were like, his room is cleaner than my kid's room. Well, needless to say, when they left my son's room, it was like he had been in there a week and never left. And it took me a minute just to go in and clean up my son's room. Put everything back where he had it. But he doesn't like cleaning his room. The only thing I can state at those records is that there is a statement stating that the only place he felt safe was here.
I don't want you getting yourself into a legal quagmire, so I'll let you speak about what you're comfortable speaking about, but just...
I can't really mention anything about him. Lord help me if DCS contacts my attorney one more time. I'd already told her what to do if they contact her one more time. I'm not speaking about them. I'm not giving them out to anybody.
Right. Yeah, and you're not doing anything to violate the confidentiality. You're happy to have those reports. At the end of the day, you now know what happened, or what is alleged to have happened. at least for whatever incidences those cover.
It's more insight. It's more insight in figuring out what was going on, because it's obvious that the communication that was given to me wasn't proper communication.
When you heard Katie indicate that there was a potential thud coming from his room with the knowledge of his head injury, how does that make you feel?
If I had heard it in my house, I'd have been in my son's room to find out what was going on. If I hear any kind of strange noise coming out of his room, wherever room he happened to be in, any room, period, I'm going to go find out what that noise is, verify, see what's going on. The fact that she would say that there was that type of noise and not go check on him, to me, is not proper parenting.
Based on your knowledge of your son's behaviors, do you believe he would have left the house in the middle of the night?
Different scenarios go through my head. For him to leave and not have his shoes, coat, take his switch or his phone, stuff that I know that he would want with him if he was going to run away. No. But for him to leave without shoes or anything else on there, the situation would have to be severe enough for him not to be able to grab that stuff. So, based on the information that I know about my son and the story that is being told by his mom, for him to have left between the times of falling asleep and 6 o'clock in the morning is straight bullshit. And she knows that's how I feel about it.
Have you been involved or heard of any other incident where he disappeared or got lost in the past?
Never.
Betty,
Is there...
I will tell you that I had a private conversation initially with CP and KP, and I asked them very directly, and I know there's been some contradictions, but I asked them if it was normal for him to just walk out of the house regardless of the time of day, and they both in unison said absolutely not.
My heart is missing. Just drop him off. Tell him to go call 911. I need my son, and I want my son back. Life ain't fair, but this is bullshit.
Give him just a second, Betty.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, sorry, there's double Lady Freedoms here. I apologize. I'm going to try to find the clip. I tried to upload it from the other one, and I'm sorry if there's a bit of an echo here. 1 second, though. I might be able to get it off of my other phone and load it on. Rogue asked about Sebastian's party and if I had the footage from the party. And I have it, I just don't know why it won't let me load it and add it in. Okay, I apologize, guys. It doesn't look like it's going to let me add it in, which I do have it. My apologies. Give me 1 second here. I'm going to try it one more time from here. If not, I'll pull it in for tomorrow. Yeah, it's not letting me load it in for some strange reason. But we can definitely watch it tomorrow. It'll still be just as relevant, you know. It's just so sad. So unfortunate. Thanks, Rogue. Bab says what is slowing the case is that LE's pockets are being padded to ignore, to look the other way. Watch and see if this investigation ever goes any further, which I don't think it will. Yeah, it's frustrating as hell, Babs, and I agree. I mean, I think that there is a lot to be said about who is facilitating this and who's being paid. I mean, it just goes to show that if you're on that side of things, you're getting paid, in my opinion. Sasha says they may be the tail end of them finishing what they are doing in the crawl space, the 3 a.m. lights video. Oh, I gotcha. Yeah, absolutely, Sasha. I can see that. There's something to the video. Sasha says it's possible that Yellow Jacket guy helped KP. I don't know. That may be why he was wearing that jacket. I don't know. Just kicking the can. No, fair enough, Sasha. And I appreciate you doing that. You know, it's important. And I agree. Yellow Jacket is definitely a suspect in my opinion. What was he doing? And, you know, very visibly not getting any food, but there and coming out with Katie. I believe the handoff with the cell phone. I also believe that was, you know, Sebastian on this man's cell phone, you know, the yellow, the Yellow Jacket guy. I almost called him a hoodie. Communication the problem the whole time. Absolutely. Absolutely, Kiki. That was another major problem. Communication. Yeah. Kiki says, Rogue, the 911 call at the beginning sounds like LE says dogs dug into the print like he was frustrated. That's interesting, Kiki. Thank you. Oh, the dispatch. Bab says the restraint that Seth shows why Sebastian was the person he was and how intelligent and respectful he was. Absolutely. I agree, Babs. I agree. Rogue says, wow, Kiki, I'm going to have to listen to Sumner County Dispatch the day they allegedly went looking for Sebastian. Yeah, it's important. I think we need to analyze a lot of the beginning days again. You know, Rogue says, I really do not think I could restrain myself, yet it doesn't do anyone any good. I know, and I think it is a constant reminder. It just is, Rogue. But, you know, I'm glad that he's handling it that way. You know, I really am. Oh, thank you, Vic. Vic says prayers for Sebastian and Seth. Thanks, Vic. Thank you so much, honey. Yeah, and it's SI officer says Babs 100%. It's so frustrating, guys. And you know, we see these things in these cases, and you know, but I know that we can make a difference. And like I said, I want to continue with this letter writing campaign, right? And I want to do this through next week, right? So we'll make it through next Saturday, because usually Sundays are the day off. But please go to X and talk to Mr. Patel. You know, just let him know what's going on from your heart, you know, and, you know, let's get the ball rolling. FBI Director Kash Patel at FBI Director Kash on X. Director of the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Pretty please, guys. It's so important. And then we have his address here, right? Mr. Kash Patel, Director, FBI Headquarters, J. Edgar Hoover Building, 935 Pennsylvania Avenue, Northwest, Washington, D.C., 20536. Right? Dear Mr. Patel. And it just starts that way, right? You know, thank him for his time. Let him know how important he is to us, how important he is to Sebastian's case, how important that the director of the FBI be aware that there is a case right now that is not getting the attention that it needs, that we need their help. What's wrong, buddy? I know. You feel the same way, huh? So we need it to happen. We need it to happen, and we need his help, right? So either way, please. And let us know if you get a response. Let us know what you've said. You know, we're gonna do a segment tomorrow night, and I'm gonna share a little bit of what I've come up with, and I will screenshot whatever I sent to Mr. Patel. We'll kind of start it that way. But the more that we do this as a group effort, the more that we will be heard. I do believe that, right? For those of you who are not familiar, I think many of us are, right? But Dr. Seuss's Horton Hears a Who, right? When there was only one voice calling out, we are here, we're here, we're here, it wasn't heard. But after everyone got together and they let Horton know that they were there on the clover, right? We're here, we're here, we're here. That's when he was able to hear the voices, because everybody was together, right? You know, it's amazing how that works, but that's what's going to get our voices heard, is us uniting, coming together, and blasting Mr. Patel. And, you know, it in a nice way. Again, like I said, any of these letters, it's really to be respectful and to be professional, and to show that there are many people out there that have very valid questions and concerns when it comes to Sebastian Rogers' case, and we want to be heard, and we'll all do it together, right? Same thing with the letter writing campaign. So if we send all of these out within the next, you know, this rest of this week, right? Short week. But then the rest of next week, if we do that, they'll see that presence, right? If we all do it together. One letter trickling in here, maybe two the next day, it's not really going to make a big impact. But putting our voices together and saying, we're here for Sebastian, we can do so much, guys. And especially with the DMing on X, and, you know, just spreading awareness is so important. So please join me in doing that. Good night. I will help you with it, Anne. Absolutely. Yes, I will give you a call. So yeah, absolutely, honey. Yeah. And, you know, and I always like hearing your guys' ideas. You guys help me too. You guys will help me with the letter writing, just like I can help you with the letter writing, and we can do it together. That's the power of coming together and using our voices as a collective. You know, you could point a finger, but if you ball up your fist, you could do a lot more, right? It's just something that's important, and it doesn't take a lot of time. It may take some effort. It may be a matter of pouring your heart out a little bit, but making these people understand that we're here, we're not going anywhere, and we're not going to stop until Sebastian's found, because that's what he deserves. We're not going to let him be missing in vain, just like we can't let little Harmony's death be in vain, right? We have to keep talking about her. She's still missing, right? Same thing goes for our Summer. Same thing goes for her. Where's Summer? Where is she? Where is she? Because Dog has added her to the reward. So $500,000 reward for information that leads to the conviction of whoever harmed or did anything to, was involved in Summer Wells' case or Sebastian Rogers' case. Because we're here and we're not going to shut up. There's no hush money, right? No hush money. Not enough hush money in the world. Not enough hush money in the world. Right? Governor Bill Lee, Babs, state rep, Marsha Blackburn. Absolutely. And they're part of the campaign, right? So just right now, I'd love to focus on Cash. I know he's the big fish in the pond, right? And I know that his hands are going to be tied to a certain extent, but if we start there, and we keep on trickling down to everyone, and if we have to do another cycle through, we do another cycle through. But it's just about, our collective voices being heard, because that's what's going to change things. That makes an impact. Good night, Kiki. No word on the Memphis bodies. No, Sasha, unfortunately. Rogue, amen, right? Yep, because we're here. Oh, Rogue says two teens just went missing in Washington in Washington State. It's been 24 hours. Wow, Rogue. And we know that's the most important time. The first 24 hours. Washington State. Thanks, Rogue. Yeah. Absolutely. That's right. Anne says, we can't let his life go. I still believe he is alive. Yeah. I believe that's a strong possibility too, Anne. I do. Bab says, try to shut me up. Ain't nobody been able to since I was 2. Same here, Babs. Same here. And we can use our voices, right? For Sebastian, for change, for other people out there, for other cases, right? Sebastian's case being mishandled doesn't have to be something that has absolutely nothing done about it, right? I think there needs to be something done about that, because if that can happen to Sebastian, then that can happen to any child out there, Kiki says, yes, Babs, Rogue. It's important, though. It's so important, guys. And, like I said, just coming together, that's what we really need to do. And so, and it'll make us feel good about what we're doing here in this case, and not perpetuating some of the nasty stuff that's going on, right? It's something positive. It's something positive. So, Rogue says it could really help if it was a police officer or a person of stature to write Mr. Patel. Yeah, it would. It really would. Absolutely. And who knows? Maybe that will happen as we're going through these campaigns, right? And writing to these people. So. Oh, Django, I would. He went and laid down in the other room, Town Chat Cafe. I'll have to bring in a picture of him, though. He's just a beagle. He's a cute beagle. He's mean beagle. He's the meanest beagle I've ever known. I just say that. Usually beagles are pretty good temperament, you know what I mean? But he's a no-nonsense kind of beagle. Like, he's like, don't mess with me. He gets pretty growly and grouchy. I call him a crotchety old man, but he's only 3. Kiki says, I'm wondering if Mayor Glenn Jacobs could reach out to Bill Lee for us, maybe better. Yeah, well, absolutely. If we can get anybody to reach out for us, that'd be great. But I just think it's, the power of many, right? The power of many coming together. If we could get, the mailman to bring, 50 letters one day, that's a lot, right? 50 letters. Could you imagine someone getting a desk full of letters? Mr. Patel, hi, we're here. We're here. We need you. We need you. We need your help. We need your help. We're here. We're here for Sebastian. We're not going to stop. And then there's also the Mayor Isbell, but I don't know about that guy. I was thinking we could do that. And then, Sumner County too. So, definitely, like I said, I'm still going to write Sumner County. Anybody that has done that, I appreciate you greatly. Just getting a start on it. But it's just so important. But I think if we can get the right people involved and listening, that is just exactly what we need. Exactly what we need. Kiki says, oh, Kiki, I might have missed you on the comment. Yeah, Kiki, definitely send me an email. Absolutely, girl. Absolutely, absolutely. Yes, my dog does like the beach. Rogue, he does. He likes to sniff the sand and then he gets it all over his nose. It's so cute. He does like it. It's just been so hot. We haven't done a beach day, you know. Don't check Cafe says, okay, the way your cat wants to say a belated happy meow me's day to you. Your cat, oh, thank you. How sweet. Don't chat, that's so cute. I love animals, guys. Animals are the light of our lives, I think. Rogue, you cash, I'm kidding. I will write to buy. Of course I will. Aw, thanks, Rogue. Thank you, thank you. Yay. Thanks for writing. Yes. Yeah, don't RIGHT. That's cute. Fab says, Mayor Glenn, get off your ass and find out what's going on with this case in Sumner County. Help find Sebastian, please. Yes, absolutely, Babs. Absolutely. He was involved in the beginning, telling us not to go out and search, you know. No, I don't have a kitty cat. I used to. I love cats. I'd get one if I didn't think there would be a fight all the time. The long dispatch call, Kiki said, I was saying on the long dispatch call, there's the one truck Ellie was driving, but another truck locked with keys in it. Yeah, I remember. I thought I read that one, Kiki. I'm sorry. I think I remember you saying that. Maybe I read it and I didn't read it out loud. That's possible. Aw, I love Labradoodle's curly hair. Rogue says, I have 2 golden doodles. Oh, how cute. Yeah. Or Kiki says, Rogue, I have 2 golden doodles. Poodles are so cool. I had a boss that had a poodle, and he was awesome. He was awesome. Beautiful guy too, a standard. He's a big guy. Yeah, it is very wild. It is very wild, Kiki, for sure. Well, guys, I love you all so much. I was so glad to be back up here. And like I said, we're going to get back on a normally scheduled programming. We have a lot to talk about. We have a lot to do, right? There's a lot to be done. So please write the letters and just let me know how it goes. And we'll feature it on our We the People Want to Know. We the People Want Answers, where Sebastian will come up with something fun. But take care of yourselves, guys. Stay safe. And, keep praying. It's important. That's one important thing that we can do too. And it doesn't take long. And, it's something within. Nobody even has to know that we're doing it. So, all right, guys. Well, you all take care. I love you very much. Thank you all so much.